you gonna backtrack? And you should've kept my name out your mouth. Ask me though how it all turned out. When you try to use my name for clout, keep on going, give me something you can talk about.
I never know when that thing is going to go off. Hello, everybody. How you doing this fine Thursday, August 7th, 2025. It's 12:25 p.m. I am late. Oops. I was going to say it's not my fault, but it is. Sorry. Anyway, I just have been feeling like not in the mood. I don't know if it's the seasons, if it's Mercury in retrograde, if P. Diddy casted a spell on me that day that he was supposedly praying that day, or what. I've just felt so fatigued. I don't know. Anyway, so so this morning there was a hearing in the Megan Thee Stallion, aka her real name, I think is Megan Pete versus Milagro Cooper is her name. And so Meg Thee Stallion, a celebrity, is suing Milagro for defamation, I think, and some other stuff. She has the same law firm that Jay-Z and Rock Nation use a lot. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you. It's Diddy. Maria said that trial drained me. I can only imagine for BJ. Yeah, and it's like also just the kind of gravity of the whole thing of like, y'all know I think people should get a fair trial. Like, I really do. I really think people should get a fair trial. And I don't think people should go to jail for something they didn't do, for sure. Just something about the verdict still not sitting right with me on that one coercion of Cassie thing. Because it's like, if you could be somebody's label owner and their boyfriend, and they have a 10 album exclusive deal with you, and when they run away from you, you track them down, like all these things, and that's just considered to be consensual. Like, there's that is one thing. The Jane Doe thing, I'll refrain from saying what I would have said as a juror, but there I could see how, some arguments could have possibly been made this way, that way, but I am still a little bit just kind of like, so what has to happen for somebody to get justice out here? And then at the same time, I'm seeing people kind of getting railroaded by the criminal justice system. And then in the civil justice system, or civil system, whatever you want to call it, where, people are suing each other. It's not a crime, but it's people suing each other. It's like there too, I just keep seeing the big guys win and the little guys lose. And thank God that hasn't been my experience. I have, thank God, won. I have won and will continue to win the lawsuits that I have personally faced, but lucky, you know what I mean? Like, not really, but like kind of, because like sometimes I look at some of these lawsuits and it's like, why is that person gagged from a gag order? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, there's certain things that just don't really sit right now with me. And I'm kind of like holding out hope that, maybe there's just stuff I don't know. Maybe there's stuff I didn't see. I have to kind of stop myself from going full on like nothing's fair and we live in an open air prison, because guess what? I don't freaking consent to that. And you're not going to catch me saying something that would indicate that I consent to living in an open air prison, because I don't consent. My rights to free speech are inalienable. So are yours. They are not given to us by any pieces of paper. They are not given to us by a website. They're given to us by God, whatever, the universe, the divine order of things, the not so divine, the nihilistic order of things. If you don't want to believe in God, you don't have to. When you're born, you have rights. And it is supposed to be the job of the government to protect those rights, not to take them away. And the government includes civil courts. That includes civil courts, because they're judges paid by the government, part of the government. I don't consent. But anyway, so I've just been, I said this yesterday too, and y'all can probably even just tell I'm just tired. Like, I'm just tired. I'm just fatigued. And I don't know. I guess the Diddy trial kind of took it out of me. A lot of stuff. I mean, the lawsuit I've been fighting for, the federal lawsuit I've been fighting for 3 years. It did just get dismissed last month. And perhaps, 3 years, that's how long it took me to go to law school. That's a whole entire law degree worth of school time. So 3 years is a long time. Maybe I'm kind of processing that. But it also could be possibly, as y'all know, there's just so much going on with all these lawsuits, and the web has now just started to self cannibalize. It's the web's webbing on top of itself, on top of itself. And I think I'm just a little bit brain zapped from all of the same characters coming in here and there. And this one's lawyer, and this one's suing this one. And they used to be friends, but now they're not. It's just like, whoa. And I feel kind of like the same way about, this Tory Lanez saga. I mean, this is another one that's been going on for a long time. This has been going on for 5 years, since 2020, I think. And more now, it has come back into the public consciousness, this Tory Lanez universe of cases. It's not only Tory Lanez has his own criminal conviction, which he is fighting right now. Oh, M said, "Wait, I owe 500,000 in lawyer fees, probably more than I don't know. Truly, I don't know the exact amount. That is the truth. I do not know the exact amount, but almost all the money I make that doesn't go directly back into like stuff you see with your eyes and hear with your ears on these videos is like literally been going to lawyers for years. Years. I don't even know what it feels like to like not truly like have that hanging over my head. And someone commented in my comments the other day about, am I going to be given the money back that the people don't? Y'all, there's no freaking money to give back. There's no money to give back. Lima was ordered to have to pay $87,500 of my lawyer fees. She hasn't paid a penny, first of all. And until in the meantime, I'm still responsible for that. And that isn't even probably at this point, even a fifth. I mean, I don't know. I'm not good at math and also don't exactly know. But like suffice it to say for sure, well over 250,000, probably well over 500,000. I actually think it's closer to $1 million. Yeah. So if you think I'm making $1 million freaking dollars over here, have you ever seen an ad on this channel? Have you ever seen a sponsorship on this channel? They email me, they in the inbox, but I don't want to sell stuff to y'all that I don't use or that I don't like a lot of subscription services, a lot of video games. I don't want to come on here and be like, let's play insert video game name or whatever, like I don't like video games. Actually, I stopped playing video games at about Super Mario World on Nintendo 64, the golden era. Y'all saw me try to play Dress to Impress. I couldn't even walk around. So I'm just tired. So no, I'm not giving money back. There's no money to give back. And I've always said that too, just so that y'all know. If you donate to my legal fund in somehow, some way, there's any money left over in there, it's set up in a different bank account and it's going to just be sitting right there in case I get sued again. I've said that before. If y'all donate to the legal fund, thank you. I definitely still owe a lot of money. And guess what? The lawsuits were all dismissed with prejudice, most recently in federal court. I won. For what? Is anybody going to do any investigations? Does anyone care? I put everything in the world on the line to tell the truth about some public records. It's something's in the air, somebody said. Anyway, so I've been feeling kind of like the same kind of thing about this Tory Lanez case. It's like so tentacles all over the place, same lawyers here, there. They're the same lawyers, law firms here, there, and everywhere. We're talking about Desiree, Nicki Minaj, Tory Lanez. There's a criminal case. Then there's the one where he's getting pulled in, having to pay somebody's fees in the civil case. And it's the Milagro, and it's the Megan Thee Stallion. And then Laura Loomer's popping in. And it's like, whoa, okay, hold on, wait, stop, whoa, hold on. Yeah, it does feel like grief. Because it's like, no one, like, we watched Amanda Rabb die in front of our very eyes. I thought if I put it out there to the world that they didn't tell the true cause of death of how she died, that maybe some authorities would care. I spent months, maybe years, over the course of years, spending my own money requesting body camera footage, trying to get information from LA that you just can't get for some reason, which should absolutely be public record. It's like they said she died from a seizure disorder. The cause of death was marked as a seizure disorder. That's what they said, and that was false. And okay, fine. If I have to sacrifice everything in my life, my very career and everything to tell the truth and to get the word out, okay. But whenever it's time for somebody who can do something to do something higher than that, next level than that, it hasn't happened. And I guess nobody cares who can do stuff about it. I know y'all care. But anyway, it's been pretty annoying, to say the least. But I'm standing 11 and a half toes down. If I had to do it again, I would do it again, because I don't do stuff for the outcome. I do stuff because it's the right thing to do. I just got done watching that. Y'all know the Bonnie Blue. She's on OF. You know, the site. And she's the one who, it's not Lily Phillips. It's the other one. You know, there's like two of them like that. And she's going to do a petting zoo, but then she got kicked off the OF. She's deplorable, to be honest, but I also feel like she might be a victim. I have complicated feelings about that. But she has a documentary out, or someone made a documentary on her, and it was that challenge where she did, where it was like, you know, 100 or 1,000, 1,057 men in 12 hours or something. It was nasty. But I am interested in looking into the function of this economy, as y'all know, because I think that it ties in a lot to the web and to the trafficking and to I think a lot of times, you know, that's how they grooming us, getting us to change our language. Instead of calling it what it is, we got to call it a photo shoot and, you know, different things like that. But there was something her mom was on the documentary. There was something her mama said in the documentary, and it made me feel a little bit sick, because she said it with such a matter of factness that it felt like I'm not living in the same world. We're not the same speed. Like, it was just something I could never say with that amount of matter of factness. It just threw me off. The mama said, I promise you that if you could make £1 million, which I don't know what the pounds to dollars is, but let's just say dollars. If you can make $1 million in a month, by showing off your bits, by showing off your bits, which is a total de-escalation, you know, minimization of what it actually is 1,000 people in 12 hours. That's not just showing off your bits, first of all. If you could make $1 million showing off your bits, then that's what she would be doing. She's not showing off her bits. But this woman, this mother of the model, she's like, yeah, once you get used to the money, you would do it too. And it's like, actually, no. Actually, freaking absolutely not. Actually, I probably would have got disowned. No. That? No. We're not talking about somebody working at the Pink Pony Club, at their local Gold Club. This is far more than showing off your bits. And it just reminded me that some people are just literally for sale. Again, I have a complicated emotion about this Bonnie girl, because like with parents like this, like, how did she ever get taught, you know, that her value could be something else? She has a husband. Y'all knew that? Surprise. She got a husband. Kaylee in the chat. I was trying my Bonnie Blues mom accent. Did I do it? She said, great accent. Shout out to the UK cousins. But like, anybody got like a grandpa or grandma, somebody that helped raise you? For me, it's obviously my dad. You know, my dad's passed away, but it does happen to me with other people sometimes too. And you hear their voice, and you're like, they're dead and gone. I can't call them up, but I just know. I just know this is what he would say. Like whenever that mom said, "You'd show off your bits too for £1,000,000 a month," or whatever she said, I almost could audibly hear my dad's voice. I will not say exactly what I actually, think he would have said, but it would have been along the lines of, we'll just be homeless on the street. We will just be homeless on the street. We will do conservatorship or jail. Whatever, come what may. My mother would absolutely, sometimes she's in the chat, I don't know if she's in chat today, would never. You would do it too. Maybe for like, something like a dance competition, a toddler and tiara even, we doing a beauty pageant. This is so freaking far beyond showing off your bits. I don't know. I'm feeling a bit downtrodden, but we'll get through the drama together. Bonnie Blue, did she not steal that name from Gone with the Wind to use it doing? Bonnie Blue is in Gone with the Wind. The only names I can remember from Gone with the Wind is Scarlett O'Hara and Rhett Butler. I don't remember any other names. She married her husband named Ollie. And the thing too, she just started doing the O to the F in 2023. That was 2 years ago. So like it's like before you could really have too much time to really think about it, boom, boom, boom. You're never overcoming this reputation in this lifetime. It's sad. I think it's actually sad. I actually think it's very sad. And I think that no one around her loves her. Because if they did, even one person around her had love for her and loved her, they would start to help her make a way to get out of this. She says she loves it though, y'all. I will say she puts on a good show, but she also says that that corn is fake. Okay. So if you can lie to my face on one hand, you can lie to my face on the other hand. And it's possible it's just too soon for her to realize that it actually is doing a lot of damage. So 18 minutes in, I guess we'll get to I just kind of also wanted to just like talk a little bit. I think a lot of times, like I also got in this like frame of mind with the Diddy stuff where it's like, okay, I just got to hurry up and like do the most important information. And it's like, I don't like really want to go at that pace anymore. Like I don't like that pace. So this is going to be an alternative pace from time to time. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but I don't work for you. And this how I have to do it. Okay. So, all right. So I thought, why not just start? And if you're watching on the replay, you can just put video actually starts at 1840, or whatever it is, on y'all's end, right? My thing shows 1847. But I have here, and thank you to Kaylee for sending this to me, the opening statements from the Tory Lanez case. It's 152 pages long. I don't know how much of it we'll actually get through, but I thought like, why don't I just start there? Okay. And I understand and I know that opening statements is just like the both sides kind of saying, sorry, I get distracted by y'all's comments. Hold on, let me pull this up and cover the comments for a second. I figured why not just start here? I know both sides are going to be saying, their own versions of events, but it's kind of overwhelming to know where to start. So I kind of have a vague idea of what's going on in court right now. On the appeal, or oral arguments are coming up. And there was a hearing this morning in the Milagro case. We can go and check on Pacer in a little bit to see if any order came out of that hearing. It was an evidentiary hearing. So now that I have a little bit of understanding of like what the procedural posture of the case is and the different cases that have sprung up in the progeny, then I thought maybe I could just go through here and do read the opening statements. And I know that some of y'all have been on this case for 5 years. Shout out to y'all. This is, as you can see, I think I wrote it somewhere, day 3. day 3 or maybe 4 of me investigating this case, but I really am not as familiar with it. I saw some stuff so far that gave me pause, that made me feel like maybe he actually hasn't not gotten a fair trial. Now, that isn't the same thing as me saying I think he's innocent, but in the United States of America, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Now, he has been proven guilty. However, he says he did not get a fair trial. And when I looked into a little bit, just a little bit of his arguments and the basis for upon which he's basing his appeal, I actually think he has some strong arguments. So now I'm going back in time here to December 12th, 2022, and we're gonna read the opening statements here. Some of y'all, I know that this is old news. If you don't want to, participate, if you don't want to be a part of it, goodbye. I understand, I'm not even trying to be like, oh, yeah, I'm just, whatever. Like, you could go. This is what we're doing over here, just so you know. Okay. So Daystar Peterson is Tory Lanez. He was not in court. He wasn't. The people, okay, just getting an idea of who they were in LA. Okay, the judge said, I will have some more instructions for you at the conclusion of the case. But at this time, it's time for the opening statement. Okay, here we go. Again, this is 3 years ago. 2.5, 3, almost 3. Mr. Bott, if you would like to make your opening statement. Bott is... Can we get some new names in the open air prison? Alexander Bott. Is it raining in New Jersey? Thought I heard thunder. Okay, so this is the DA. This is the prosecutor's prosecutor goes first. Bott. Okay, so here comes Bott. Literally, the guy's name is Bott. That's crazy. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, the first words out of his mouth. Dance, B-word. That is what the defendant said as he shot 5 rounds at the victim with a semi-automatic firearm. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot. He said, dance, B. Now, some people in my live chat have told me before that it ended up coming to find out nobody ever even heard him say this. So I don't know if that was said or not. They might have just wanted to say it in their opening statement. I don't know. Maybe he said it. I don't know. Sounds like, I mean, the last time I made a video about this, it sounded like a Western, like a Texas Western, like a cowboy movie. Dance, dance. But then y'all were like, no, rappers do that too. People in the hip hop world do that. So no. And I'm like, okay, well, if y'all say so, I gotta scroll. Okay, semi-automatic too. Is that true? Okay, this is the opening statement. He says, as a result, the victim, that's Meg Thee Stallion, sustained pew-pew shot wounds to both of her feet. And within 5 hours of the pew-pew event, they say, and Tory Lanez made a phone call that was recorded. Okay, a recorded phone call where he profusely apologized for his actions. Okay, so he's admitting it because he apologized. Now we'll get into the, evidence as I go through my investigation, but this is where we are right now. Claiming he was just too drunk. And remember, they were leaving Kylie Jenner's. They were leaving Kylie Jenner's pool party. They should have been at home masking up and social distancing. Anyway, the opening statement goes on. But even the defendant admitted that because of what he did, the victim would probably never speak to him again. But folks, when you point a pew-pew at somebody and pull the trigger 5 separate times, you are doing an action with potentially deadly consequences. Being drunk is no excuse. That is what this case is about. It is the reason you are all here today. So what exactly happened? Let me start by introducing you to the victim in this case, Megan Pete. Also known as Megan Thee Stallion. This is somebody we talked at length about during jury selection. She is a well-known musical artist with a large public following. Megan will tell you that she was in LA leading up to the shooting, working on a music project. She was with her assistant and very good friend, Kelsey Harris, who also, just so y'all know, I don't know if he's going to say this in the opening statement, I'm sure he won't, had gunshot residue on her hands, but they did not run her fingerprints or her DNA for that gun. Ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, why that is. I mean, I'm interjecting here. Okay. So he keeps going. On the night of the shooting, July 11th, 2020, July 11th is always going to be a special day to me because that is when my federal lawsuit against me was dismissed with prejudice. So there's 5 years before that. On the night of the shooting, July 11th, Megan and Kelsey were invited to Kylie Jenner's pool party in the Hollywood Hills. Megan will tell you that they arrived at the party. They were having a good time, and sometime after Megan and Kelsey arrived, the defendant arrived. So Megan and Kelsey get there. Then Tory Lanez shows up. This is the prosecution's statement of events. Once Tory Lanez got there, he was driven to the party by a man named what y'all say his name? Jaquan Smith. Okay, so Jaquan Smith drove Tory Lanez to the party that night at Kylie's. And they brought with them a loaded 9mm pew pew. Now, Megan, again, this is the opening statement. This is what the prosecutor is saying and did say years ago. Okay. Now, this case is currently on appeal. There's also writs of habeas corpus. There's lots and lots of evidence that has been brought to light since this. Some of it I know about, some of it I don't. Some of it I will interject, some of it I won't. But I'm just reading here. Megan and the defendant knew each other at the time of the party. In fact, she'll tell you that she was close friends with the defendant. Well, it might have been more than that, huh? And before this incident, they had even been intimate with each other. So it's Megan, Tory Lanez, and Kelsey Harris. They're all having a good time at this party. It's a pool party. And around 4 o'clock in the morning, nothing good happens after 10. If you're behind in the Uber by 10:30, it's 50-50 how your night's about to turn out. Go home. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, they decided to leave. They left in a black Cadillac Escalade that was driven by Jaquan Smith. That was, again, remember, the driver. In the front seat, driving the car, is Jaquan, and Tory Lanez is in the back seat. I wonder what was going on in the back seat, if it had anything to do with the lawsuit. The Emilio Garcia. That's his last name, right? Yeah, Emilio. He said in the back seat he saw some things he can't forget. He wished he never saw. And he cited lyrics about two red bones kissing in the back seat. Okay. I mean, I'm just telling you what the lyrics were. Okay. Anyway, we're in a different case here. Again, I am a little scatterbrained. But to remind you, in the front seat, driving the car was Jaquan. Tory Lanez was in the back seat. Megan was in the front passenger seat. So she's riding shotgun, no pun intended. And Kelsey is in the back next to the defendant. So Kelsey and Tory are in the back. Megan is in the front. Now, as they are driving away from the party in the Hollywood Hills, an argument erupted between Megan and Tory. So front seat, back seat. They had all been drinking. Emotions were running high. Okay. They had been drinking and emotions were running high. And who knows what the Jenners stirred up with the drama at the party? Who even knows? Maybe nothing. Certainly was not there. But what Megan and Kelsey will both tell you is that what really set off the defendant was when Megan insulted his skills as a musical artist. So she was like, and your music sucks, or something like that. That is what really set him off that night. And the argument got pretty explosive. In fact, it got so bad that Megan demanded to be let out of the car. She had had enough. Hold on, let me cross out this address. Pauline said Megan was cooking there and was so drunk. There's footage of the pool and her smashing glasses because she didn't like him flirting with Kelsey, who was supposedly her friend and her assistant. We need to know what happened at that party. Nashika said, good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay. So Jaquan, the driver, pulls over at this Hollywood Hills house. It's a very small street. Megan gets out of the car and she had had enough. Kelsey gets out of the car. Okay, so far this goes along with everybody's story checks out. And Megan will tell you she walked away from the vehicle. At which point, Tory Lanez, the defendant, Daystar Peterson, grabbed that loaded gun and got out at the passenger side of the car. He pointed it at Megan and said, "Dance B-word," and fired 5 rounds at her. Then there was some audio played in court. Don't know what that is. Megan will tell you that she was terrified. She will tell you that she sustained gunshot wounds to both of her feet. She was bleeding. She was injured. And what she did, and right up to when the pew pew happened, these gunshots woke up the neighbors. People started calling 911. Listen to the 911 call. Okay, they played it. And another call. They played it. Now, the prosecutor goes on. As I was saying, Megan was bleeding. She's injured. What she does is she hobbles over to this driveway down the street. Oh, again, I should have, this is a public document. I do not have to redact it, but I do this, because people be playing with me too much. That's pretty much why. Okay. What she does is she hobbles over to this driveway down the street at this address road, and she hunkers down. She leaves a trail of behind her. Your Honor, may I have a moment? So he takes a break. There's always technical issues with every opening statement. My apologies. But anyway, here we go. So Megan is shot. She's injured. She hobbles over to that address. She leaves a trail behind her. They played a video clip in court. And at this time, Kelsey, she's going to come up here. She's going to tell y'all. She just saw her close friend get pew-pewed by the defendant. Now, pause. I'm going to stop right here because I know y'all be so mad at me if I don't at least mention. This Kelsey right here is like prime suspect number 2 as far as the public is concerned. Now, I personally haven't made my mind up yet about, who I suspect did anything. However, just looking at the factual evidence, there was gunshot residue on two people's hands. One person was Daystar Peterson. One person was Kelsey Harris. Residue on her hands. Why, how and why would it get on it? Just the evidence, right? Just factual evidence alone. How and why would it be on her hands? Maybe she just handled it afterward. Maybe she picked it up. Maybe she threw it on. I don't know. We're gonna go through it. However, for me, it's odd, and it does kind of make me ask the question, why? Her fingerprints weren't matched or run on the gun to see if there was a match, because Tory Lanez fingerprints, and I believe if Tory Lanez gets a new trial, I believe the reason, or one of the reasons, will be the fingerprints. If how he's telling the story is true, I believe it's Brady material, it's exculpatory, and he may not even get a new trial. He may just be acquitted for life. Like, it may be like a prosecutorial misconduct thing, depending. Could be. I shouldn't say maybe. Like the words have meaning. Could be. Now, I don't know. We'll see. But remember whenever there was that Rust trial with Alec Baldwin, and he pew somebody on set as an actor, he pew somebody. And then there was like a box of ammunition from whence that bullet came. Somebody died also. Someone died. So then the box of bullets gets filed under a different case number, and then Alex Spiro later finds it, and then it's a mistrial. You can't even find a Brady violation. So it is my belief that the fact that Tory Lanez fingerprints were not on that gun And no juror ever heard that statement. And the reason no juror ever heard that statement is because the prosecution did not provide them with the fingerprint evidence. I think it could be prosecutorial misconduct. I also think I would like to hear the government's arguments because stuff filed in court is very one-sided. Okay. I'm reading somebody else's comments. Okay. So we were here. He said at this time, Kelsey, the other one with the gunshot residue on her hands, will tell you she saw her close friend just get pew pew by the defendant. Well, what are her motives? What motive does she have to tell the truth? Well, if Tory Lanez did it, she has all the motive to tell the truth. But if maybe she did it, like she hired this bodyguard later. She hired this bodyguard later, and he wants to, or has now, I think, submitted a written statement. And apparently, according to this bodyguard from Elite Security, Kelsey Harris said she's the one shot the gun 3 times in the air. It's a lot of he said, she said. And that's why I wanted to go back to the beginning. Now, am I saying Kelsey did it? No. But am I saying that it creates enough of a reasonable doubt that I think that it actually is material that the jury know who else's fingerprints were on the gun? Now, Kelsey has pled immunity. She has, well, excuse me. She's pled the 5th and got immunity. So she can't be prosecuted for anything she said on the stand. But I'm wondering if she could be prosecuted for things that she said not on the stand. I don't know. I don't know how it works. From what I understand, she can't be prosecuted for it. But maybe she can. Okay. So at this time, Kelsey is going to tell you she just saw her close friend get pew-pewed by the defendant. She goes over to this driveway to comfort and check on Meg. This is the prosecutor's version. And at this time, the defendant begins approaching their position in that driveway. So at this time, Tory Lanez starts approaching Kelsey and Meg in the driveway. And look, Kelsey, she's going to tell you she didn't know if Tory still had a pew-pew. She didn't know what he was capable of. Now, also, this right here, the pew-pew, that's also up at issue because at the time of the trial, they were saying they couldn't run it. They couldn't figure out who owned the gun, something, whatever. I don't know. We don't know who owns it. It's impossible to find out because it's unregistered. But now they're saying apparently the gun was actually never run through the system. Again, I don't know how both of those things could be true, and I don't know who's lying. Yes, Galactic Barbie doll. Yes. If she lied on the stand, does that make the immunity null and void? I don't exactly know what you mean exactly by null. Does it make the immunity null and void? However, I do know that the terminology and the kind of like reading your rights of it all that they often say is nothing you say can be held against you unless you lie. Because then that would be perjury and you could be prosecuted for perjury. So I don't know if that means you still could be held accountable for the stuff you did or not, but it's like the perjury comes into play. And it's Alex Spiro, just so y'all know, because there are some Shapiro lawyers, but this one is Spiro, like Spiro, S-P-I-R-O. I don't trust Alex Shapiro. He's with Rock Nation and Jay-Z. Sounds like Rock Nation setup. Could be. I don't know. I mean, lawyers are just for sale too. Like that's another thing too, y'all. Like sometimes the lawyers are like bad actors and they're in on it and they're evil, but sometimes they're like evil because they have a price that they're willing to just defend anybody. So, that is part of it. That is part of our justice system is that, everybody gets a fair shake at the system, but it is supposed to be fair. Lawyers are supposed to follow rules too. Sean Kelly. Yeah, we'll get to him. He probably will end up mentioning the Sean Kelly guy. Okay. She goes over to this driveway to comfort and check on Meg, who had just got pew-pewed. And at this time, Tory Lanez begins approaching their position in the driveway. And look, Kelsey's going to tell you she didn't know if Tory Lanez still had the pew-pew. She didn't know what he was capable of, if he was coming over to continue this assault. So her defensive instincts kicked into gear and she approached the defendant as he came toward them. And what she's going to tell you is that the defendant physically assaulted her. Okay, so Kelsey is going to say that Tory Lanez assaulted her. He pulled her hair. She doesn't remember exactly, but he either punched her or slapped her. That's terrible. I hope he didn't do that. And as a result, her jewelry came off in the street. Her jewelry came off in the street because who assaulted her? Tory Lanez, according to the prosecutors. Then they played another video clip. And you can see the necklace that Kelsey was wearing pictured here right in the middle of the street where Tory Lanez assaulted her. And now at this point, Jaquan, he sees the defendant and Kelsey fighting. Megan had just been shot. Jaquan comes over. This is the driver. Separates Kelsey and the defendant. Now, a lot of people were saying that actually it was not the defendant and Kelsey. It was Meg the Stallion and Kelsey. They were fighting each other over Tory Lanez because it had just came out that he basically got caught with his hand in two cookie jars at the same time. And so this is the alternative theory of the case is he wasn't fighting with Kelsey. Wait, you mean he shot Megan in the foot and then ran over there to fight with Kelsey? Other people are saying absolutely not. That's not what happened. Kelsey and Megan were fighting because they were supposed to be friends. And one of them felt like the other one was home wrecking. They got out. They start fighting. Necklaces get ripped off because nobody asked nobody to hold their earrings or whatever. That's the other version of the story. But here it's like, oh, and then he shot Megan and then he went over there to fight Kelsey, which I got to admit, doesn't really make sense to me. So Jaquan, the driver, sees Tory Lanez and Kelsey fighting, according to this opening statement, and Meg had just been pew-pewed. Tory comes over and separates Kelsey. Excuse me. Jaquan comes over and separates Kelsey and Tory Lanez, and then he pulls Kelsey back toward the car. Now, it's 4:30 in the morning. Everybody's in their swimsuits. They, just came from the pool party, and Megan and Kelsey were terrified. And they were drunk. Don't forget they were drunk. They were in a strange area. All of their stuff was still in the car. They didn't want to be left there. So, in the minds of Megan and Kelsey, the best thing for them to do at that point was to get back in the car and get to a place of safety. And that is what they did. Jaquan was the driver. Tory Lanez was in the front passenger seat this time. Okay, so now he got shotgun. Front passenger seat this time. Kelsey now was in the back, and Megan was in the back next to Kelsey. And Megan is bleeding. She's bleeding on her suitcase. Here is the towel that Megan used to help staunch the bleeding of her feet. The pew-pew that was used to do this is still with the defendant in the front passenger seat. And it's depicted right there. Now, the first thing Kelsey does when she gets back in the car, so she's in the back seat this time. Well, she's in the back seat last time too. So she's in the back every time so far. She's sitting next to Megan. She's bleeding. Megan's bleeding. And Kelsey sends a text message to a person named Justin Edison, who you're going to meet in this trial. Okay, Justin Edison. He gets a text from Kelsey. It's 4:30 in the morning. At the time, he was working as one of Megan's security guards. Okay, so he's a security guard for Meg the Stallion. He wasn't there for the shooting, but he's something that was close with Megan, or maybe someone that was close with her. This is what Kelsey says, 4:27 a.m. Remember, the 911 call went out at 4:22. So this is literally 5 minutes after the pew-pew. This is what Kelsey said. Quote, "Help. Tory shot Meg. 911. That's the first thing Kelsey did, getting back in that car. Help. Tory shot Meg. 911. Quote, that's the first thing Kelsey did, getting back in that car. She sent this message. Tory shot Meg. 911. Now where do they go? They leave. Jaquan Smith drives them away toward Hollywood Boulevard. They drive eastbound on Hollywood Boulevard toward La Brea Avenue. And remember those 911 callers? They also give a description of the vehicle. Okay, so there's a little sleepy, quiet street where all this happens. It's 4:30 in the morning. And so, I mean, I guess you end up finding out one guy's on the balcony and sees the whole thing go down. They're saying Kelsey's text messages are edited. Well, we would need to see the authentication process. They're saying she never sent that message. Well, this is what they're saying in the opening statement. So I'm going to read the opening statement, but people are disputing, I mean, nearly every aspect of this case. Remember those 911 callers from that little neighborhood where it all happened? Well, they also gave a description of the vehicle, including the license plate number. Oh, got them. So LAPD patrol were on the lookout for this car, and officers locate the car traveling eastbound on Hollywood and conduct a high-risk traffic stop. What is that? I don't know. But they found the vehicle. So they find them. They do a traffic stop. The first thing the officers do is they order the occupants out of the vehicle. And the first person to be ordered out is Jaquan Smith, the driver. Out of the vehicle, out of the vehicle. The next person to be ordered out is Tory Lanez. The next, Megan, who's the victim. And here's another vantage point I want to show you because it really shows the victim struggling to walk. Really shows her struggling to walk, and he plays a tape. It shows her actively bleeding from her feet where the defendant pew-pewed her. Take a look. Actively bleeding. Now, y'all are probably seeing it in the chat right now. I'm not looking because I get too distracted, but I bet you in the chat they saying she stepped on glass. She steps on glass is what they say. But here's this guy in the opening statements. He's saying, no, she's bleeding because that is where she got pew-pewed by Tory Lanez. Take a look. They played a video. Next time I read one of these, I want the video exhibits lined up. I need a volunteer to put together the video exhibits. Every time video clip is played, I want to click. I want to click on it. You can see little blood puddles where she's walking. Now, the last person to be ordered out of the car is Kelsey Harris. Remember, she had gunshot residue on her hands. How did it get there? Once all of the occupants are out of the car, the first thing that the officers do is they go and search the vehicle, and they find the pew-pew in the front passenger floorboard, right where Tory Lanez was sitting. However, could this one right here, the last one to get out the car, have thrown it up there, kicked it up there? Just because something's under your seat don't mean you used it. Maybe he did. But I want to know what the proof is, because his fingerprints and his DNA are not on the gun. So what is the proof other than people who have a motive to lie? Maybe we're going to come across it. Don't shoot the messenger who's asking questions. Don't shoot the questioner. Once all of the occupants are out of the car, the first thing the officers do, they search the vehicle. They find the pew-pew on the floorboard. I wish I had that video clip. I know it's on 36hourslater.com, but it is a little bit difficult for me to navigate that site. I don't know which one is which and all that. And what you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, in that video was the pew-pew was in the slide lock position. Now, when we call our firearms expert in this trial, the expert is going to tell you that the slide lock position means that every single round in the pew-pew had been fired. So it was empty. It had no ammunition remaining. And you heard right there that the gun was still warm. Oh my God, y'all. It was still warm. So I think probably something did get shot off. This is why I think that's so far. Okay, I'm going to tell you all my evidence for why I believe someone fired a gun, and it was that gun in the car. Warm to the touch. Having it in there with no ammunition in it at all, why would you have it in there at all? I mean, even if you have a license to carry it, and I'm saying you, I'm not saying him, right? There were 4 people in the car. I don't know who it belongs to, all that. I'm not even saying it was his. I'm not saying he shot it. I'm not saying he didn't. However, it was still warm to the touch. There is some type of x-ray that does appear to have some type of something in her foot. It could be projectile, it could be debris. Maybe that's fake, maybe that's not. However, neighbors called 911. There's 911 calls. There was a shooting. People saw it, a father and a son. Yes, their story changed, but I just feel like for me personally, in my opinion, because I wasn't there, I don't know for sure, but I believe based on the evidence we've seen so far that it is possible. I believe the gun was fired, and I believe it was that gun. Now, I have other questions. Who fired it? Where was it fired? Was it fired at someone? Was it fired into the air? These are all questions I do have. There also were shells found. Okay, thank you. Yes. So there was some type of gun activity. Yeah. They retrieved shells. That's what they're saying, Pauline. Yes. Yasmin, or is it Jasmine or Yasmin? Jasmine, why didn't Kelsey get tested for DNA after she looked like she had been in a fight in the car? There's too many questions. I have this question as well. This is interesting too. There's apparently a Kelsey Harris diss track. And she said Megan's team told her if she speaks up, a SEX tape is going to drop. I might make a whole video about that, actually. Let me write that down because I might make a whole video about that. I want to like really investigate that aspect of things. S tape, lyric, Kelsey. Okay. She named Deseret, they saying. Yes, 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 they're saying. No GSR residue was in the car. Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't really care if the residue was found inside the car, if the weapon itself was found inside the car. I mean, that's the smoking gun. Literally found a smoking gun. It was still hot. That is like what? Yes, it's a smoking gun. Now, however, it's not that smoking if you can't get one fingerprint or one DNA droplet on there of the defendant you're trying to put in jail, which they did find him guilty. Okay. Interesting. And you heard right there that it was still warm to the touch. This was a cool night. It was a cool night in July in California. Okay. Right where the defendant was sitting, right at his feet. The officers next searched the back of the vehicle where they find a bloody towel that Megan used to staunch bleeding. Okay, here's some evidence. I'm going to start putting purple. Evidence is purple. They play a video. Now, she's injured at this point. She needs to go to the hospital. She's transported by ambulance. And when Megan is in this ambulance, this is the first time where she had been separated from Tory Lanez. When she's in the ambulance, okay, so she's injured and they put her in an ambulance. Okay. The prosecutor's saying this is the first time where she was separated from Tory Lanez. The first time she was truly in a safe place, surrounded by paramedics, taking care of her injuries, and she felt safe. And the emotions of what happened, the impact of what Tory Lanez had done to her, it really took over. She's transported to Cedars-Sinai, which is, I have to say, because this is a web and the web does web. Cedars-Sinai Hospital is where Britney Spears was taken the first time she was held on a 5150 against her will. This is whenever Dr. Phil was talking about Britney needing a conservatorship or needing to be locked up. This is whenever Lou Taylor came out and talked as the family representative. Who is Lou Taylor? It is to this day P. Diddy's business manager, accountant, manages his houses. Came up a couple times in the Diddy trial. Not Lou, but her company, TriStar. So if you haven't, found out before, if you didn't know this before, Britney Spears was human trafficked and very likely sex trafficked. She said, this is her words. This is her words. She said that she was forced to work for hours a day. She was forced to do over hypersexualized dance moves that she did not want to do. And if she said no to these dance moves, remember, this all happened while she didn't have the legal right to enter into contracts. If she said no to a dance move, she was drugged. She was put on lithium. She was put in a rehab. If she's still needing to go to rehab for addiction problems and she's been in a conservatorship for 12 years, who's been giving her the drugs? Hello? Hello? So, the first hospital, the first attempted setup, in my opinion, before the real setup the next year, Cedars-Sinai. Okay. Here is Megan at the hospital, and you can see the wound on her left foot. This wound required surgery. A surgeon had to remove the major fragments from her feet. There are still bullet fragments in both feet. And you're going to hear from one of the doctors who was there for that surgery. And the doctor is going to tell you that the surgery was necessary. Because if those fragments were left in her feet, she would experience constant pain. The fragments could move and create potentially more serious injuries. That sounds pretty serious. They could cause an infection, which could become very serious. So they had to come out. Here's a photo of her foot shortly after the surgery where it has been sutured up. She still has that scar today. Now, back in the station, the investigation is underway. One of the first things the investigators is they undertake a gunshot residue analysis of Jaquan. Okay, so now we're talking about the gunshot residue analysis. Thank you. That's what I want. That's the driver. Of Kelsey and of the defendant. And you're going to hear from a gunshot residue expert in this trial. Thank God. I want to hear his and Kaylee, not Kelsey, did send me I believe the expert testimony of this gunshot residue expert. So put G, just put expert. Don't put anything about G. Just put expert. Say pew pew expert in the chat if you want me to do a reading of his testimony like I'm reading this. This is kind of like hard, tedious work, especially for things that have already happened. But I figure I am going to be reading it anyway. So if y'all are interested, I will read this stuff out loud with y'all and to y'all. It's kind of fun to just kind of go through and do. So put expert in the chat if you want me to do that one through. Otherwise, I'll just read it by myself. Okay. So one of the first things, this is the opening statement, the prosecutor goes on. One of the first things the investigators do is they undertake a gunshot analysis of Jaquan, the driver. They do one of Kelsey and of Tory Lanez. And you're going to hear from an expert in this trial, and that expert is going to tell you what the residue is. Basically, when you fire a gun, it creates a vapor cloud that travels a significant distance. In one study, I think it went 18 yards, and that vapor cloud is made of particles that we call gunshot residue. And you could test for it. There are 3 ways a person can test positive. Okay, thank God. He's going to tell us the 3 ways. How in the hell did Kelsey Harris get this pew pew residue on her hands? I do have a similar question though, y'all. Like the people that are in the free Tory camp, the same question does get turned back though, because he did have gunshot residue on his hands. So people have said that he went and pulled it up. Kelsey is the one pew pewing, and Tory Lanez went and pulls it up out of, and makes the shots fire toward the air. Maybe that's what they would say. People are saying pew pew expert. People are saying it. Okay, I got 2 people so far. So it's going to be me and 2 people. Me and Kill With Kindness and Tab, I guess. Okay, saying. Okay, there's a few more. Okay, I see. Okay. He was fighting for the pew pew. That's what they would say. Okay. Okay, I hear you. Okay. There are 3 ways a person can test positive for this residue. The first way is if you fire a gun. Okay, easiest first way. You shoot the gun, you get the residue on you. Okay, got it. And Megan and Kelsey will tell you that Tory fired the gun that night. So unsurprisingly, the defendant tested positive for gunshot residue. Now, there are 2 other ways a person can test positive for gunshot residue. Now, remember, he's probably having to say this because he's going to have to explain why Kelsey has gunshot residue on her hands. You can either be in a gunshot residue environment. In other words, you could be standing near somebody firing a gun where that vapor cloud is being produced, or you can come into contact with somebody who had been in a gunshot residue environment. So they was holding hands or what? You'll hear that the residue actually transfers from one person to another very easily. Transfers very easily. And Kelsey's going to tell you that she was actually standing very close to the defendant when he shot Megan, and that vapor cloud would have been raining down on her. But was it elsewhere or just on her hands? Remember, she'll also tell you that after the defendant shot those 5 rounds, he physically assaulted Kelsey. Okay, allowing for a transfer of additional gunshot residue to Kelsey's person. So unsurprisingly then, Kelsey tested positive for gunshot residue. Now, what else were they doing? Well, the gun was subjected to a DNA analysis, and you're going to hear from that expert in this trial. And here's the thing about guns, and this is what our expert's going to tell you. Guns are often used and passed around by many individuals. And in this case, that was true. Our expert is going to tell you that this gun had the DNA of at least 4 different people on it, which I did kind of look at this piece of evidence already. It was like a 90% match to a male contributor, but it was not a match. It was inconclusive to saying that it was Tory Lanez's DNA. Importantly, the defendant could not be excluded, but he couldn't be included either. He could not be excluded as one of those people. Now, what else is being done in terms of forensics? Well, our firearms expert is going to testify in this trial that he compared the cartridge cases found at the scene of the shooting. And he's going to explain that when you fire a semi-automatic handgun, there is an ejection port. Okay, so when you fire, there's an ejection port. As the actual projectile goes forward, the empty cartridge gets ejected out of the port and is typically left behind in a crime scene. These are the casings. And here is officers locating the cartridge cases at Nichols Canyon where the shooting occurred. It's a little hard to see there, but here they are for you. 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 5th cartridge case was not recovered that night. You know, these things hit the ground, they can roll, they can bounce. But they found 4. But obviously, we heard the shooting. We heard 5 shots. They found 4. Our expert compared these casings against the pew pew itself, and he's going to explain that process to you. It involves test firing the gun and making a determination. And in this case, the expert's going to tell you unequivocally that the gun, warm to the touch, found at the defendant's feet was indeed the same pew pew that was used on that road at 4:30 in the morning. In other words, that pew pew was used to shoot Megan. What else do we know? What else are you going to see here in this trial? Remember, the shooting was on July 12th at about 4:22 in the morning. At 9:05 a.m., so within 5 hours of shooting the victim, the defendant made a phone call from jail. He called from jail. In the phone call, it was recorded, and this is some of what he says, and he's calling Kelsey. Where's Kelsey, by the way? She's also at Cedars-Sinai, waiting outside for her friend, Megan, waiting for an update about Megan's status, about her health, about how she's doing. And she receives this call from Tory Lanez, and then they played the audio. Quote, never would have did that S word if I wasn't so drunk. The defendant's own words. Now, this is at 9 o'clock in the morning. Now I want to know, was any of these people's blood tested for like substances? And we're not even talking about, oh, did they do them willingly? I mean, they were at a party in LA. Anything could have been in their drinks. You know what I mean? I would have said, I want a blood test. I want to make sure somebody didn't slip me something, make me act crazy. Kaylee said he was out of the car before they recovered it. And Kelsey was the last one out of the vehicle. Yes, exactly. Even by the prosecution's own admission, Kelsey was the last one in the vehicle and out of the vehicle. So he apparently left a message just 5 hours after the shooting that he never would have did that bleep if he was so drunk. Now, importantly, he's not quoting, I shouldn't have shot somebody. Whatever is that beep could be up for debate. He's not saying I definitely shot somebody, right? Now, this is 9 a.m. This is 9 in the morning. Now, about 9 o'clock that night, Tory apologizes again, but this time not to Kelsey, this time to Meg the Stallion. He does so by text message. So about 12 hours later, he sends Meg the Stallion a text message apologizing. And this is what he says. Meg, I know you're probably never going to talk to me again. Because of why? Because she probably found out with the hand in the cookie jar thing. Never going to talk to me again. But I genuinely want you to know I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. And I was just too drunk. Nonetheless, beep should have never happened, and I can't change what did. I just feel horrible because I genuinely just got too drunk. This does look pretty bad, I will say, but I am going to also say he did not say he shot her. He said he's sorry things got out of hand and he got too drunk. Maybe he was flirty with what's her name. Like, it could be, sorry I shot you. But that actually doesn't seem very likely. It seems more likely like everybody knows who pulled the trigger and everybody knows it wasn't Tory. Like, that's what I imagine Tory is thinking if he really didn't pull the trigger. Now, the alternative and what he was found guilty for was, yeah, he pulled the trigger. He was found guilty. But like, the prosecution was supposed to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. There's so much stuff that I like kind of want to say sometimes, and it's just like I don't want to get sued for defamation. Like, knowing what I know about how the legal system can be manipulated and about how judges can be bought off, and I'm not saying that happened in this case, but it's just like I don't think jurors know what's possible sometimes, like what's possible technologically, and like, you know, nobody wants to believe that a label could be setting something up or whatever. And like, again, I'm not saying that happened, okay? Nobody says they're guilty on a jail call, but also like nobody implicates themselves on purpose from a jail call. I mean, maybe on accident, but like telling someone you're sorry for a fight getting out of hand, I don't know why he would apologize at all. If I'm in jail, I ain't apologizing to nobody till I get out of jail. Make sure I'm not about to go down for something somebody else did. Jasmine said, I think he flirted with Kylie. Probably. Meg got mad and Kelsey was curious why her friend was mad. Then boom, all hell breaks loose. Well then, okay, so you're saying who shot who though, Jasmine? Yeah, even jurors can be. Zoe said she's not scared to get, so y'all go sue her for defamation, not me. Just kidding. Tory M said Tory didn't expect Megan to do this to him for sure. He was just trying to protect Kelsey. I'm sure that's why he was trying to text that way. No, it was he wasn't in jail. It was just that night. Look. Text message. Yeah. So I guess he wasn't in jail. Texted her that night. I know you probably never going to talk to me again. I genuinely want you to know I am sorry from the bottom of my heart. It was just too drunk. Nonetheless, stuff should have never happened and I can't change what I did. I just feel horrible because I genuinely just got too drunk. I want to know what happened. What happened and were people's blood tested for some getting roofied? That's what I want to know. Anyway, okay, so the following day, July 13th, around 3:30 in the afternoon, the defendant is out of custody. He's back at the house he was staying at on Edinburgh Avenue, and as it turns out, he was in possession of some of Megan's stuff. Some of her belongings were in his possession. And so Justin Edison, remember that person who received that text message 5 minutes after the shooting from Kelsey? He goes to the house to get Megan's stuff. And what does he do there? He talks to Tory, the defendant. And Justin, this security guard, is going to tell you that Tory admitted much of what he admitted in the call. He admitted a lot of it. He said he was the trigger man that night. Oh, he did the shooting. But again, for the umpteenth time, he was just too drunk. And says he was just shooting in the air, and shooting at the ground. Oh. So he admitted to doing this according to this bodyguard. But importantly, the opening statement goes on. He tells Justin, he admits to this bodyguard, he was the person who fired the pew pew that night. Now, I want to say something about the victim. She's going to testify on Tuesday, and you're going to hear that she initially told police she stepped on glass, and that's how she sustained these injuries. And Megan, the victim, she's going to tell you in her own words why she made that statement. Okay, so they steal the thunder. Initially told police that she stepped on glass. She changed her statement, but don't worry, everybody. She's going to tell you why she changed her statement, folks. I think you're going to find those reasons very compelling. The issue in this case actually isn't even whether she got shot. You're going to hear from the doctor who pulled what? I think the issue in this case, I'll let you get away with some stuff out here, guy, but I think the issue in this case comes down very broadly to whether or not she got shot. I think it's a big part of the case. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, during the live stream, sometimes I have to do a little personal business. The life of Samad. Thank you so much for the £1.99. Justin's noodles leaked for not showing up to court. Oh, no, you lying. Hold on, I gotta take a screenshot of this so I don't forget. Life of Samad, thank you so much. So this guy didn't show up to testify and his noodles leaked, if y'all know. Y'all know. I'm not going to say the words, but thank you for that £1.99, and that is interesting to know. It was everywhere? No, they were showing his whoopty. Woo? Well, that brings back into my purview those lyrics from the so-called alleged diss track. Oh my God. His parents went on the news and said they were being threatened. Oh my God. Oh my God. Girl. Okay. What you'll hear from the doctor who pulled the literal bullet fragments out of her feet. No. The issue in this case is who shot Megan. And Megan will tell you the answer to that. She will tell you that the defendant told her to dance B-word and fired those 5 rounds at her. She will tell you that. Kelsey, who's standing right there, who was standing right there when it happened, she's going to tell you she saw the defendant fire those 5 shots at Megan. You will have this text message from 5 minutes after the shooting. Help! Tory shot Meg 911. That is going to tell you that the defendant shot Megan. Justin is going to tell you that Tory Lanez was the shooter that night. He's going to tell you that. The pew pew, warm to the touch, found at Tory Lanez's feet. The same pew pew that was used to shoot Megan. He's going to tell you the defendant shot her that night. Folks, the jail call. Okay, more evidence. There's more evidence. The jail call. The defendant, in his own words from his own mouth, is going to tell you he shot Megan that night. No, not quite. Okay, I don't like this. In his own words from his own mouth that he shot her that night. Just because he apologized does not mean that he, in his own words, told you that he shot her that night. That's like, misleading, I think. The apology text to Megan on the night of the shooting, that's going to tell you Tory shot Megan. You're going to see and hear from all of these sources of evidence. They're going to tell you the same thing. Tory Lanez assaulted Megan with a semi-automatic firearm. And at the end of this trial, after you hear this evidence, the people ask that you hold the defendant accountable and find him guilty as charged. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we have George Magdisian, who is the Sean Chapman Hawley stand-in. Sean Chapman Hawley is another one of these lawyers that it's like, if you think about it too hard, your mind starts to bend and break. I mean, she's been around for so long and she's just always with these celebrity cases. And it's always, in my opinion, from what I can see, something shady. She was involved whenever, in the time zone, in the timeline, whenever Lindsay Lohan's dad, Michael Lohan, was saying that Sean Chapman Hawley and Lou Taylor were working with Lindsay Lohan's mama to put her into a conservatorship so they could be in charge of her money and they could be in charge of what she does. This was over 10 years ago. Sean Chapman Hawley sitting right there with Lindsay Lohan in court. So Sean Chapman Hawley was Tory Lanez's lawyer for some time, but then she abruptly quit, and now there's some weird stuff going on with that. They're filing for sanctions and an investigation into her license because she had a serious conflict of interest. A serious conflict of interest, according to Tory Lanez, Daystar Peterson. So she ends up quitting on the eve of trial, and then Tory Lanez had to get a new lawyer, this George Magdisian guy. No, I'm not sure, Simply Fee, whether or not she actually worked with Lou Taylor. I am reporting that Lindsay Lohan's father, Michael Lohan, stated that Lou Taylor and Sean Chapman Hawley were both in on the scheme to put Lindsay into a conservatorship. Y'all can, I mean, that's a public video. I don't know. Personally, I'm not saying they worked together because I don't know, because I wasn't there. I don't talk to these people. They saying that was a paid mule of Rock Nation. And they put a gag order on Tory Lanez, but not Megan Thee Stallion. And then she got to go on Gayle, which is basically, in my opinion, an extension of Oprah, which brings you back into the web with Russell Simmons and documentaries and media narrative shaping. And if you dig deep enough, you end up back at literally the CIA. But I'm not going to go there today. I'm just reading the opening statement today. So then the judge says, okay, thank you, Mr. Bott. Mr. Tory Lanez's new lawyer that just got here 5 minutes ago. Oh my God, my computer screen just like blacked out. Like it just turned black. Okay, well, it's back up now. Okay, would you like to make your opening now or reserve? George said, right now I'm ready. Okay, proceed. George gets up. Jealousy. Oh God, this is out of the Mark Agnifilo playbook. Well, actually, this came before Mark Agnifilo, so maybe Mark Agnifilo got it from here. This case is about jealousy, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start off. This is Tory Lanez's lawyer talking now. He gets to do his opening. I want to start off by thanking you guys for being here. I know it's a great sacrifice, dragging you away from your family and your loved ones and bringing you into this court. But without you, the system doesn't work. And thank you guys for that. As you guys already know, my name is George Magdisian. My colleague is Sarkis Manukian. This is from the Sanskrit that means frog, I think. Manu, man, Kyan. Or maybe it means, no, maybe I got that wrong. Okay, anyway, it's obviously most likely an Armenian last name, both of these, Magdisian and Manukian. And we represent Mr. Daystar Peterson, who's also known as Tory Lanez. And what I'm about to tell you And what counsel just told you is not evidence. It's what we believe the evidence is going to show. And the purpose for this opening statement is for us to provide you with a roadmap. So, as you hear witnesses testify and as you hear evidence presented, you could put the pieces of the puzzle together and understand the case better. As you guys can imagine, this is a very, very important case for my client. And I would ask you guys to keep an open mind and listen to the entirety of the evidence. Listen to all of the witnesses' testimony before you pass judgment. As you guys have already heard, the court told you to listen to all of the evidence and only deliberate when you are in the jury room together. As you guys know, and as we discussed this at length in voir dire, the people have the burden of proving this case. And just because we have the burden, and because they have the burden of proving this case, they go up first. They present their evidence. And I would ask you guys, just keep an open mind. Listen to all the evidence they present and wait until the defense. Because as you guys heard, the defense doesn't have to present evidence. I'm telling you right now, we're going to be presenting evidence. And I would ask you to keep an open mind throughout this trial and listen to what the defense presents at the end. And only when you are in the jury room with your colleagues, when there's 12, 14, 16 jurors in the jury room, and you guys can deliberate at that time. Tory Lanez lawyer goes on to say the evidence is going to show on July of 2020, as counsel told you guys a few minutes ago, that at the evening hours, late in the evening, the night hours, there was a phone call around July 11th where Megan is at Kylie Jenner's house. And Megan was at Kylie Jenner's house with her assistant, Kelsey Harris, and also her stylist, who is also her driver that day. You're going to hear from him. His name is Eric Culbertson. So they're all at Kylie Jenner's house, and my client, that's Tory Lanez, receives a phone call from Megan. Okay, all right. Okay, this is news to me. All right. They're at Kylie's house. Why does Tory Lanez go over there to that party? Good question. I don't know. Maybe one of y'all knows. Maybe y'all could tell me. Maybe they're about to tell me right here, but it looks like he went over there. Tory Lanez went over there because Megan the Stallion was already over there with Kelsey. So Megan and Kelsey are already over there. The evidence is going to show. When my client received the phone call and he's invited to this get together, this pool party, he goes there with Mr. Jaquan Smith, who is his security and also his driver that day. And they get there in the late night hours before July 12th. And at the time Tory Lanez gets to the Kylie Jenner pool party, he doesn't even know Kelsey is there because she was passed out. Oh, girl. Did they take blood from these people? I want to know if any of them were roofied. Because I have a whole series going on BJ Investigates right now. My next episode coming out is going to be about zombies and like the serpent and the rainbow and like, you know, are there zombies like running amok in the United States now? But the zombification thing requires like a two-step drugging process. One to basically paralyze you to make you look dead. And then the second one is like a scopolamine or scopolamine type drug that basically makes you like really, really vulnerable to suggestion. So I also have had a terrible experience in LA after a Britney rally where I was one of us, me and my fiance both, our drinks were drugged. I mean, we were obviously drugged. Thank God nothing happened. Nothing too bad happened. We got in an Uber, we went to the hotel and just passed out. But it was like I left my shoes. He left his debit card. It was very uncharacteristic. It had never happened before and it never happened again. And we were sick as dogs the next day. So, I mean, this is LA. We're talking pool party. Who knows who gets invited where and what? I just want to know what else besides drunk. And that's just getting drugged. I mean, also people take stuff because they want to for fun. So, I mean, that's also something could have happened. Not that I'm saying that they did or suggesting they did. It would be more likely to me that who knows what, you might pick up the wrong drink. Okay. At the time he gets there, my client, this is Tory Lanez, doesn't even know Kelsey is there. because she was passed out. She had been drinking too much. You're going to hear, and is this maybe where the tape got made? Did the tape get made this night? That's what I want to know. The infamous tape from the infamous diss track, did the tape get made this night at the Kylie party? Did it have anything to do with this scene right here? I don't know. My antenna, my psychic, my tingle spot is tingling up here on my head. That tells me whenever something is amiss. There's something amiss about this right here, okay? She's passed out. When Tory Lanez gets there, Kelsey's passed out, okay? Because she had been drinking too much. Did they test these people for drugs? Not that I'm saying Kelsey would have did a drug on purpose. I don't know what. I've read so many Diddy party lawsuits that my mind is open. Okay. It's open. I'm a wide open mind. I'm open to a lot of things having happened. All right. But just so you know, I wasn't there. Anyway, you're going to hear they were all drinking a lot, including Tory Lanez. And when he got there, he started drinking with him. And who else was at the residence before? Because all these things that I think what counsel skipped over. Okay. Yeah. This is giving some important context. And how the argument happened. Okay, there's an argument. And I'm going to walk you guys through everything so you're going to understand the motive and all of the intentions of what took place that day. And at that location, besides Kelsey and Megan and Mr. Colbert's son, you're also going to hear from a person named Corey Gamble. Stop. Oh my freaking help me, Jesus. He was there at Kylie's house. He's Kris Jenner's boyfriend. One of my first videos ever on BJ Investigate. I think it might be the first one ever. That's where he got the name Corey Handler Gamble. Okay. What is he? Is he security? Why is he always, I don't know. I've much airtime has gone to Corey Gamble. Also, he was there on the day Kim Porter died at her house where she died. He was out and about at the house and in the house. He was there at Kylie's house for the pool party. He's always right around, isn't he? Kris Jenner's boyfriend. You know what else? I call him Corey Handler Gamble because it was whenever they were putting Kanye West against his will. And then back 2016, look, say what you want about Kanye West today, but back in 2016, whenever he was getting locked up and stuff, that was messed up. And they were trying to put him in a conservatorship in 2020. Now, I don't agree with everything he says. And I think some of the stuff he says takes it too far. I think it's too much with all the corn and all the way he acts. It's grotesque and it's detestable. I don't support that type of behaviors. However, that being said, he was afraid for his life. He was afraid for his safety. And he was reaching out to Donald Trump at the time, trying to go talk to him because Donald Trump was either about to become president. Yeah. I don't think he had been voted. I don't think he had been elected yet. But Kanye West was like trying to get national attention from like politicians on his case because they had locked him up against his will. They had put him on medications he didn't want to take and all of this stuff. And so guess who went with Kanye West to Donald Trump in 2016 to talk about the ill treatment he had been getting? Corey Handler Gamble. Corey Gamble also sneaks in the Justin Bieber situation. He's a part of the Justin Bieber web because why? Because he was a tour manager for Justin Bieber. So Corey is just always around. Okay. I was not expecting him to pop up here. Okay. Y'all know y'all saw me go. At that location, besides Kelsey and Megan, you're also going to hear from Corey Gamble, who was there. He was there at Kylie's house. That's Kris Jenner's boyfriend. He was also there. There's a few other people who were at the house when Tory Lanez arrived. Some of them were in the pool. Some were hanging out. And you're going to hear that my client, once he gets there, he also gets in the pool. Okay, so they swimming. Splish, splash. And the evidence is going to show he's hanging out in the pool with Kylie Jenner. Ooh, Meg Thee Stallion got jealous of Kylie. This is when he realizes Kelsey is there. Kelsey comes up from her nap. She's taking a nap, comes out there, and he hangs out with them. While they're all together, my client and Kylie are in the pool. Oh, this is a contributing factor. When did WAP come out? When did WAP come out? 2020, this year. This is the same year. The next month, WAP came out. And that's whenever they had Kylie Jenner. Like, obviously, they've been pushing her as a SEX symbol for a long time. But, like, you remember when she came out with the tigress outfit and she's all walking down the thing? It's like, I'm not going to say Kylie Jenner is an intentional honeypot set up by some, perhaps government or some type of state actor. I'm not going to say that Kylie Jenner is a honeypot. I'm not going to say that the Kardashians are blackmail bait. I'm not going to say that. Okay. And I wouldn't say that. But he flirted with Kylie, and Megan and Kelsey both got mad. That's interesting. That is interesting. Kylie was actually the one that was eager to have him there. Oh, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm not saying that. Jasmine's saying it. Okay. So if y'all want to sue somebody for defamation, just don't do it to me. Because I would never say that. I would never say that Kylie Jenner obviously is a honeypot. No. They filmed the video in July. So you mean the same exact month as this shooting? Got it. Right. You see what I'm saying, Tay Igo speaks? You see what I'm saying? See how it's kind of like, oh, patterns, webs. This is why I can't think like on a one-track storyline anymore. Like my brain is completely busted wide open because everything is everything. Corey Gamble is a handler in my mind, in my schizophrenic delusion. Okay, that's not facts. And schizophrenia does run in my family. So, I'm just waiting any moment for them to show up with the new law they just passed for Trump and just lock me up. I'm just waiting for it. Adam Grand Mason been waiting for it. I don't have schizophrenia. I've never been diagnosed with schizophrenia. But in my early 20s, I was very kind of nervous that I was going to if you have schizophrenia in your family, it's like, oh man, once you make it past like the 21, 22-year-old, you're like, all right, I'm probably good. I'm probably not schizo. And I say that with all the due respect because like I just told y'all. Anyway. Oh my, Corey Handler Gamble enters the chat. Thank you. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Kill with Kindness 84. It's crazy. We are making sense of all of this. Like we are not crazy. In my schizophrenic delusion, like that is not a fact. Okay. Not facts. Okay, let me go back to the opening statement. This is Tory Lanez's lawyer. Okay, so I think he was flirting with Kylie. And I'm wondering if the tape, that infamous tape that's being threatened is a tape that was made with some kind of connection into this party, either at the party, with the people at the party, because what's the first most infamous tape from our generation? The first most infamous tape from our generation is the Kim Kardashian tape, right? But she filmed that tape with Ray J back in 2002 or 1. It was a long time before. The tape would come out, get leaked, which, we all know that story now, right? But they advertise it as having gotten leaked until 5 years later. I have all kinds of conspiracy theories about that tape. Like it was going to get leaked anyway. So they decided to make their own empire off of it. Or I don't know. I mean, I have all kinds of theories, and there's a Paris Hilton one too. While they're all there together, my client, that's Tory Lanez, and Kylie are in the pool. You're going to hear something happens, and that triggers Miss Something Happens. What happens? That triggers Miss Megan Pete to get very upset, and she wants to leave. And she wants to leave because she's upset. She's jealous. Whatever her reasons are, she doesn't leave. She, as you guys heard, she was there with Kelsey and her stylist who was driving there. The stylist was waiting to drive them back, Eric Culbertson. But Meg insisted on leaving instead with my client, Tory. She doesn't want my client to stay at Kylie Jenner's honey house. The evidence is going to show that my client refuses to leave. Tory Lanez said, no, I'm staying here with Kylie. He had just gotten there. He says, if you're ready to leave, you can leave. I'm hanging out here. but Megan doesn't want to leave. You're also going to hear her assistant, her stylist, Eric Culbertson, say, "Let's leave. Your hair's a mess. Your wig is coming off." He didn't have to do that to Megan. You are going to hear her own stylist say, "Let's leave. Your hair is a mess. Your wig is coming off. We need to leave." But Megan refused to leave. And on one condition, she will leave, and that is only if Mr. Tory Lanez leaves with them. Or if he's not going to leave with her, then he's going to have his security take her. Wait, this is confusing. That's if, okay, we need to leave. She refuses to leave. And on one condition, she will leave. And that is if Mr. Tory Lanez leaves with them. Or if he's not going to leave with her, then he's going to have his security take her. Mr. Culbertson is no longer going to take her. So the stylist, Eric Culbertson, he's like, "I'm tired. It's 4 of them. I'm leaving." So my client says, "Sure, you can use my security and you can leave with my security." The evidence is going to show she's going to tell Mr. Culbertson to remove all her clothing, pack her luggage that you just saw, and put all the luggage bags in Tory Lanez's vehicle. And Tory Lanez, oh Lord, my computer done blacked out again. I don't know if it's a wire. Okay, it's back on. I don't know what it is. It like goes blank for like, I don't know, 10 seconds or something. It just totally blacks out. Okay, so the evidence is going to show that Megan then tells her stylist, Mr. Culbertson, to remove all her clothing that she had, pack her luggage, and put all the luggage bags in Tory Lanez's vehicle. And Tory Lanez is also known as Daystar Peterson. That's his legal name. Daystar Peterson. He goes by Tory Lanez. And as you guys also heard, he's an artist, a celebrity artist. He has a stage name, and you guys are going to hear those two names interchangeably. But at some point, my client, Daystar Peterson Tory Lanez, agrees to have his security, Mr. Jaquan Smith, take Megan home. So they leave. So Kelsey, Megan, Jaquan Smith, they get in the car, Cadillac Escalade, you guys saw on the screen. At the same time, Mr. Culbertson, Meg's stylist, gets in his car and leaves. The evidence is going to show the only people that were left at the house was Tory Lanez, Kylie Jenner, and a few other memory named. I don't know what that means. But like, it's just like dwindling down. And, you know, I mean, I'm still starting to sort of get the picture. You know, it's like Tory Lanez and Kylie are in the pool, splishing and splashing. Megan's drunk. Her wig's falling off. They trying to get her out of there. And she's like, "No, I'm not leaving his ass in this pool with Kylie freaking Honeypot Jenner. Absolutely not. No, get him out of the pool." And I know y'all don't like Meg the Stallion, but I do believe that is like a universal, like woman, like female dating thing to do. I'm not leaving the pool party at 4:30 and you in the pool with Kylie. No, nah, I'm gonna sleep right here on this chair. It's so funny to think about, like, you know, these days of my life at this point, because like I have such a like functional non-toxic relationship where it's like, I can't imagine like I would be awake still at that time and my like fiance would want to be in a pool at all. And like Kylie Jenner, ew, like he would be grossed out. He would probably be rebuking her. So it's like, but you know, we've all been in college and it's like, you know, you go to the pool party and then you drinking and you splishing and you splashing and you got a crush on somebody and then they trying to somebody is trying to stay in the pool with your man. No, get out of the pool. You coming home? No, absolutely not. These people do witchcraft. I mean, it's called different stuff. Oh, Odell Beckham was there too. Oh, Tory was allegedly dating Kelsey. Oh, this is a whole nother. No, I don't. No, nobody. Hold on. I need to tell y'all something. Okay, if they are doing witchcraft and it's anything like voodoo, hoodoo, voodoo, anything like that, I regret to inform you, I'm a 13th generation Louisianian, and we have the same ancestors. So if you go to your ancestors trying to get them to do something mean to me, that is also my ancestors, and they like me more than you. Okay, so on top of all of that, all of them work for the one true God, and that's who I work for too. So no, I don't have to be careful. I don't have to be careful, and I won't be careful. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Thank you. Okay, so there is an Instagram live for this. She looked really upset. Oh, thank you for the 199 pound. Yeah, yeah, and you can run and tell that all through the Caribbeans. Same ancestors. Y'all got the same ones as me. 13th generation Louisianian. I mean, y'all can do the ancestry.com if you need to. But no, your ancestors likes me more than you, and they definitely are going to turn back right around on you and do it 3 to 5 to 10 times worse on you, whatever you try to do to me. I don't make the rules. I don't make the rules. Thanks so much for the 199. Super chat, subliminal locks. Maybe your burnt phony trail. I don't know what that means, but thank you so much for the 199. Yep, return to sender. I live in a disco ball. It bounces right off me. It bounces right off me. This love and light you see around me, it's actually a disco ball, and it bounces whatever bullshit you sending at me right back off. But good stuff can get through. Thank you. I don't make the rules. 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 I did not make the rules. Okay. The evidence is going to show. The only people that were left at the house was my client, along with Kylie Jenner and a few other memory named. I don't know what that is, but they saying Odell Beckham was there at some point. I don't know if that's true. The evidence is going to show when they're leaving, as they're leaving the residence, they're in the Escalade. Megan Pete is very upset. She wants to go back. She doesn't want to leave. Jaquan, the driver, tells them they agreed. I'm taking you home. She says, no, no, no. I want you to take me back to Kylie's house. He refuses to go. Then she keeps insisting to go back. The evidence is going to show that she says, I left some personal belongings there. Please take me back. That's when they came back. So the security guard, Mr. Smith, Kelsey, Megan, they come back to Kylie's house where Tory Lanez is still at. Okay, so they actually left. Meg Thee Stallion and Kelsey left, but then they come back. And Kylie and Tory Lanez are still there. The evidence is going to show that Miss Pete was so upset, and she was so drunk, and she was so jealous that when she got back at the house, she created a scene to the point where Kylie Jenner kicked her out. Kylie Jenner said, it's time for you to leave. Oh, it's time for you to leave, sweetie. Get out of my house, Meg Thee Stallion. And that's when my client, also realizing that she's not going to leave unless he leaves with her, agrees to get in the car, and they just all leave together. And it's important. At that time, they all get in the car. Counsel is correct. But Jaquan Smith is the driver. Oh, Jaquan Smith, the driver, my client. Yeah. So when they leave the house, so this is actually the second time some of them have left the house, but the first time Tory Lanez leaves the house, or I guess the only time, because then they get out the car in that other neighborhood. So, okay, so Tory Lanez, when they leave, Tory Lanez in the back seat. And Meg Thee Stallion is in the front passenger seat, and Kelsey is in the back seat. So Kelsey and Tory Lanez are in the back, and Meg Thee Stallion in the front. So the seating chart is the same on both sides so far. For the prosecution and the defense. Tory Lanez's lawyer says this is important. Why? Why is it important? Well, because when we go into some statements of witnesses, I need you to understand that that is the position that they were seated when they left Kylie's house and they started going home. And counsel is correct. They were arguing in the vehicle. They were arguing because Megan was upset that my client didn't want to leave with her, and he wanted to stay with Kylie. She was upset that he wanted to stay with Kylie Jenner. This is crazy. I want to hear Corey Gamble's testimony. Someone please send me that. So as they're arguing, the evidence is going to show that Kelsey, I believe at some point, you're going to have to judge credibility. Miss Megan Pete makes numerous statements. Keep in mind, the statements she makes and the time she makes these statements are not evidence. At some point and throughout this 2-year investigation, she finally does admit, yes, she was arguing with Daystar Peterson, aka Tory Lanez. And at some point, her assistant, Kelsey, joined in the argument, assisting her in the argument, backing her up. And at that point, the evidence is going to show that that my client gets upset. Because just so you guys understand, there's going to be evidence that my client had a relationship with Kelsey Harris prior to being in a relationship with Megan Pete. So we have a little triangle of love, little love quadrangle. Megan Pete knew about my client and Kelsey's relationship, and she knew Kelsey liked my client, and she knew that they were together. But at some point, after they had already been together, Megan started dating my client or is in an SUL relationship with him. And again, this is the stuff you're going to have to judge if she's being completely truthful. Megan being completely truthful. And why wouldn't she be truthful? Anyway, while they're arguing in the car and Kelsey jumps in and backs Megan up, my client says, do you know who you're even backing up? The evidence is going to show. Tory Lanez said, you're backing up the person who knew. Okay, wait, hold on. I have a new theory. Okay, so they're at the party. Tory Lanez has been intimate with both Kelsey and Megan Thee Stallion at this point. But I guess maybe they don't all know that about each other. Like, oh my God, this is crazy. Look what he said. And so Kelsey is like, yeah, you don't need to stay there with Kylie. You don't need to stay there with Kylie. You need to leave or whatever. So they're in the back seat, Kelsey and oh my God, this is drama. And Tory Lanez, Megan's in the front seat. Megan in the front seat screaming and hollering. They in the back seat screaming and hollering. They're getting into it. While they're arguing in the car, Kelsey jumps in, backs up Megan. And then Tory Lanez said, do you know who you're even backing up? You backing up the person who knew we were having a relationship and went behind your back and slept with me. Oh my God. Now I'm starting to wonder, is Kylie Jenner the only honeypot we're going to see come up in this situation? I don't know. And that's going to make Kelsey very, very upset, ladies and gentlemen, to the point where Kelsey is going to say, oh, this isn't the first time she's done that. Kelsey's going to say that Megan did the same thing to her whenever she was with DaBaby, another rapper. Also did the same thing to me when I was dating Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons dated Jenner too, didn't he? Didn't Ben Simmons date what's that other one's name? Not Chloe. The one that did the Pepsi ad. Kendall. Didn't Ben Simmons date Kendall Jenner? I'm mixing that up with something else. Also, Kelsey said she did the same thing when I dated DaBaby. She slept with DaBaby. Then when I dated Ben Simmons, she did that. She did it with him. They got into an argument themselves in the car. And at that point, while they're driving, Megan is going to ask to exit the vehicle. And counsel didn't go into this part. But before she gets out of the vehicle on that little side street road, the evidence is going to show that she exits the vehicle on Sunset Boulevard. And you guys saw some of the video, the surveillance, the body cams. You saw Megan was in the bathing suit, the top and the bottom. She decided to exit the vehicle because she's arguing. She decided to exit on Sunset Boulevard and sit at a bus stop. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for letting me know. She's sitting at a bus stop on Sunset. My client had to go back and get her in the car and convince her to get back in the car, saying it's 4:00 in the morning. You are a celebrity artist and you're sitting in a bathing suit on Sunset Boulevard. Get in the freaking car and we will take you home. Eventually, she does get back in the car, but again, she gets back into the front passenger seat. This is Meg Thee Stallion in the front passenger seat at this point. My client gets back behind the driver again and they start driving. But the argument with Kelsey continues to a point where on this other side road, they were driving, when they were driving home, the house you guys saw in the video, she tells him stop again. And the evidence is going to show that there is a fight that happened. I know counsel just told you guys that there was a fight between my client and Kelsey, but think about this. Ask yourself this. When that statement came about, this investigation has been going on for 2.5 years. If anybody said there was a fight, between my client and Kelsey. And that's very important. Why do I say this? Well, there's a witness. Counsel played 2 911 recordings, but there's a third 911 recording. There's a gentleman that is important for you guys to remember his name. Sean Kelly, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Kelly is the person whose house the vehicle stopped in front of. It's on Nichols Canyon where the car was stopped. Literally, that's where his house is. And he tells you he hears loud noises. He hears arguing. He gets out on his balcony. And what does he see, ladies and gentlemen? He tells you he sees Kelsey. Obviously, he doesn't know the name, but he says the back passenger female. And again, counsel will say, after pew pew, people were awakened. This is important. Why? Well, because Mr. Kelly was interviewed about the 2, 3, 5 minutes later. He was interviewed about 2 or 3 or 5 minutes after the gunshots. And he will tell the police who was shot. Who was in which seat. And which seat who got out of. He's going to tell you. He describes the 2 males. One is the bigger male, that is security. The driver, he describes my guy, that's Tory, as a smaller male. And then he describes the 2 ladies. He said one was sitting in the passenger seat. One was sitting behind her in the back passenger seat. The evidence is going to show that he tells the police the lady who was sitting in the back passenger, which could be Kelsey, gets out of the car first, walks over to the front passenger, opens the door, and a fight ensues. Okay, so it's Kelsey who got out of the car, according to this Sean Kelly testimony at the beginning. This is the neighbor who saw it from his balcony. He said the lady gets out the front passenger seat and then the back seat and goes to the front, opens the door, and starts fighting with Meg the Stallion. He sees a fist fight between 2 girls. This is Mr. Kelly, who doesn't know my client. He doesn't know Megan. He doesn't know anybody involved in this case. He says he's looking down from his own balcony and he sees this fight. To a point where he says my client at that point, he doesn't even know if he was out of the car. He sees security come out. Security come out. The client, so Tory Lanez the last one out of the car. He tried to separate them. But the fight continues. And at some point, he says he saw the female with the pew-pew. That would be Kelsey. Kelsey with the pew-pew. That is what the witness said, according to Tory Lanez's former lawyer's opening statement. Kelsey was standing nearest to where the muzzle of the pew-pew, so that what he could see was the person standing next to it was a female. And this is Mr. Kelly, who says this to the police within minutes. When the 911 calls were there, the police arrive at the scene. Mr. Kelly is downstairs talking to him, telling them what happened. He's interviewed the next day. He tells him the same thing. Sure, it might not be exactly point on point, but I would actually kind of be concerned if it was. He tells him exactly how the fight started. Sure, he says, when he later sees what looked like all the world, everybody was fighting, and you'll hear evidence that they were trying to convince Megan to get back in the car. Security was telling them to get back in the car. Somebody's calling the police. Let's get in the car. Megan did not want to get in the car. There was fighting going on, but ultimately the most important thing is who got out of the car, how the fight started, and who shot that gun. The prosecution in this case, they're going to talk about Sean Kelly, the person who called 911, the person who speaks with the police at the scene. And they're going to try to discredit him because he may not know the number of people on the 911 call, or he may say that in the 911 call, he woke up from the gunshot. But he tells the police when they interview him that he heard loud arguing. That is when he went on the balcony. That is when he saw the back passenger lady get out of the car and fight with the front passenger lady and sees them with the pew-pew. And he puts everybody in their right seats. So he must have seen them before they got out of the car. Or else how would he know where they were sitting? How else would he know where Kelsey was seated? How would he know where Megan was seated? How would he know where my client, Tory Lanez, was seated? One other thing we know that counsel just told you guys the evidence is going to show my client slapped Kelsey or pushed Kelsey. She doesn't remember. But Kelsey had no injuries. The evidence is going to show she had no injuries. But one thing she did have, her fingernail, her acrylic nail had fallen down on the street. Oh, she was in a fight, girl. She lost her acrylic. Those don't just fall off. It was recovered by the police when they got there because she had been in a fist fight and had been in a fight with Megan before the shooting. And that is what Mr. Kelly tells you. But he didn't know there was an acrylic nail found on the street. They found that afterward. What a coincidence, right? Now, what is Megan the Stallion, the supposed victim, going to tell you? Well, you just heard, first of all, she did numerous interviews. She gives an interview at the location where the incident happened. Before she's in an ambulance, she speaks to the police. They all come out. I know counsel said the first opportunity she had was in the ambulance where she was emotional. But before she was in the ambulance, she also spoke to the police at the scene, on the curb. And then she was in the ambulance. And then she was at the hospital. She spoke to the police numerous times. She spoke to the police 4 days later with her attorney and people from her management company, Rock Nation. That's the one where they say it's Desiree was in there. You're going to hear the name Desiree. She talks to the police. Later on, she meets with the prosecutor and the detective, the investigating officer. She meets with the investigating officer, Detective Stogner, who is the investigating officer in this case. Desiree meets with them. She goes on Gayle King Instagram Live, posting stuff on Instagram, tweets. All this is going to come out where they ask her, what were you guys arguing about? Well, initially she says, I wasn't arguing. I was involved in the argument, but she didn't tell them about what happened at Kylie's house. What's good, Kylie? They left that out. She didn't tell them about exiting on Sunset. She goes, no, the only two people who were arguing was Tory Lanez and Kelsey. Ask yourself, why is she leaving herself out of this? Why is she not involved in the argument? She just wanted to leave the car because she says, I was tired of hearing them argue. So I wanted to exit the car because I didn't want to hear them arguing anymore. You're going to have to judge the credibility, okay? Says this lawyer. He goes on, he says, when she talks to the police, this is Meg the Stallion he's talking about, and she talks to everybody and they ask her, well, why didn't you tell the police the truth? Why did you say it was glass? Why didn't you just tell us the truth? She says, well, just recently when George Floyd's case came up and, I didn't want to say what happened because I didn't want the police to shoot me or kill me or shoot anybody. And I didn't want them to shoot Tory. So I didn't want them to shoot anybody. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the only problem with that argument, the evidence is going to show, when they interviewed her, she was already out of the car. She was seated on the curb. The police had already retrieved the gun. The police already asked her. Okay, the screen went black, so I guess this is a problem I have to deal with now. Oh my God, I did it again. The police then ask her and she lies to them. Okay, now it's like glitching on and off. I'm going to have to just end the live. She's in the ambulance. They ask her. She lies again. She goes to the hospital. She lies again. And what's funny, ladies and gentlemen, and what's going to come up in this case, stuff she says throughout the years on Instagram Live, on Twitter. She didn't tell you guys the numerous tweets. She didn't tell you guys on numerous tweets that she had her back turned and didn't actually see what happened. She says that in her Instagram posts. She had her back. Now, you heard the prosecutor say she's walking away and she heard my client say dance B word. But the only problem, ladies and gentlemen, is that nobody else heard that dance B word thing. Nobody. Not Kelsey, not the neighbors. And there's a few other neighbors who came out and made statements like, look, I didn't see everybody, but they heard it. Not one person is going to say they heard dance B word besides her. And you're going to have to decide if she really saw who the person was who pulled the trigger, or did she actually not see? It was dark. She was walking away with her back turned. She was drunk because she just didn't see what happened. Okay. You're going to have to make that decision. My job here is to present the evidence. When Miss Megan Pete takes the stand and tries to show you guys she's lying. Oh, wait. My job is going to be to present the evidence when Miss Megan Pete takes the stand and try to show you guys that she's lying to you guys. She's lying to you guys about the story from the first day, from the time at Kylie's house, about what they were arguing about. Why didn't she want to leave the house? My job is going to be to show you that she's lying about the testimony here. But what else is very important? We know based on Kelsey's statements, there's no doubt they have had issues like this in the past where, Kelsey's been with a man, DaBaby, Ben Simmons, and she's cheated on her assistant, her best friend. This is her assistant. She's sleeping with her assistant's man, and it's supposed to be her best friend. They went to college together. They are best. They went to college together. They are best friends. The evidence is going to show on the date of this incident, after the date of this incident, Kelsey and Megan have not spoken since. Kelsey and Megan have not seen each other. We know cheating on each other wasn't the problem because there was been cheating incidents in the past and they stayed friends. I could see how it could be like a third time is just, we're done. We're done. I could see how a third time is just, we're done. Truly. What would be the reason after this incident where Kelsey and Megan haven't spoken, haven't even met when Megan was waiting? Sean Kelly was waiting. When Kelly was waiting for Megan, Megan was flown out to New York. Kelsey didn't even know. Kelsey is waiting to talk to Megan, but in 2.5 years hasn't spoken to her. Now, my client at the same time, when he was stopped, when they were all stopped, you guys saw him come out of the car. They were all taken to the curb. They were all questioned. And besides being questioned, you see them talking to each other. They didn't know the officers had body cam. They didn't know officers had body cam. When they're talking to each other, it's being recorded because there's an officer nearby, and you're going to hear evidence that my client is going to tell Kelsey, Your Honor, objection. Wow. This is crazy. You never usually see somebody do an objection during an opening or a closing, but there was an objection that the judge actually did sustain it. So they cut off Tory Lanez' lawyer, did not allow him to finish what he was going to say. You're going to hear evidence that my client is going to tell Kelsey, your objection calls for hearsay. Okay, we're right past the hour. Why don't we take an afternoon recess? Remember the admonition. Don't discuss the case. Don't form or express any opinions. We have your guys go back there and we'll tell you when you need to go. See y'all back at 1:30. Okay, he wants to come up. They do a sidebar. What is the objection again? I object to the question because it called for a hearsay answer. The lawyer said, this is an opening statement. Everything is hearsay. That's a good point. Counsel's entire argument is hearsay. There's evidence that's going to be coming in and I have a right to bring it up. The court said, okay, what was the specific statement that Tory Lanez made to Kelsey on the curb? Refresh my memory. Tory Lanez's lawyer said, my client made the statement that I was trying to help my shorty. I have nothing to worry about. Something to that effect. His recording was hearsay. He has reasonable belief. He has reasonable belief that these people are going to come and testify. And if Kelsey is going to come in, it's a statement with Kelsey. There's a recording. There's body cam between my client and Kelsey. The court said, how is it not hearsay? You're bringing it for the truth of the matter, for the people. There's an exception because it's an admission. It's another party. But for you, you bring in your client's statement for the truth of what is contained in the statement. This is crazy. This is actually crazy. I have never, ever seen something be excluded in an opening statement. The court is like, you can't just say all this stuff if your client isn't going to come out and testify for himself, because basically that would just be like you were testifying instead of him and he can't be questioned on it. But the lawyer is like, well, I have reason to believe my client is going to testify. And the prosecutor is like, yeah, but even if he does, the statements are hearsay. You can't bring in prior consistent statements under those circumstances. That is not how it works. And the court's like, oh, yeah, true. Just like rubber stamp. Tory Lanez's lawyer said, hold on. I can't ask my client, did you say this? If he's going to say yes, that's an out of court statement that you're bringing in for the truth of the matter. So I can't ask my client. You're telling me, Your Honor, I can't ask my client, sir, did you say this? The court said, what hearsay exception would it be under? He said, it's not hearsay anymore. It's his statement and his admission. It's his statement. That's not hearsay. Yeah, but it's an out of court statement, the court said. This is insane. This is crazy. He said, it's an admission and his statement taken on the stand. Those are both hearsay exceptions. I understand third party, but my client's statement. He's saying my client said it. I can't say my client said something. The court said, no, it's hearsay, so the objection is sustained. And the other lawyer said, if the conversation was referring to what happened right after the incident, wouldn't that be considered a spontaneous statement? Exactly. There's so many. Spontaneous statement, a statement against self-interest. Like, there's so many hearsay exceptions here. How would I lay foundation in an opening statement, Your Honor? This judge is stupid. I'm sorry, this judge might be stupid. The lawyer said, how am I going to lay foundation in an opening? It's a monologue. I am giving the evidence, what I believe the evidence is going to show, and now I'm not allowed to go into the evidence I believe is going to be introduced in trial. The court said, well, you can believe something is going to be introduced, but that doesn't make it admissible. He says, Your Honor, I have a reasonable belief that the witnesses are going to come and lay the foundation. And the court said, so you think your client is going to testify? He said, I have a reasonable belief that my client is going to testify. He has to explain that statement, correct? The jail call recordings. The prosecutor says, again, this is all still hearsay. And he cannot put on a prior consistent statement, which is what he's trying to do. There's several factors that have to be true. First of all, they have to be made before the motive to lie arises. These statements were made after they were stopped by the police. The gun is at his feet. The motive is clearly there. He's not even close to meeting the threshold requirement for the prior consistent statement. His lawyer, Tory Lanez's lawyer, says, Your Honor, how is Kelsey sending the same text from the defense theory? Kelsey, the shooter. How is Kelsey sending a text message minutes later admissible? But my client's statement 5 minutes later is not. I'm confused. The court said, I think hers may be admissible. It's an excited utterance, given the fact that this happens contemporaneously with the event. There's testimony somewhere she's shaking. Kelly is not shaking. Kelsey was not shaking. There wasn't anything about shaking. The court said, well, there was testimony about Kelsey too, and we're having two people arguing. Who's doing the arguing? Tory's lawyer said, first of all, there's no evidence that Kelsey is shaking. So where did you pull that out of? That is not what the record is. There is absolutely no evidence that Kelsey was shaking, first the fuck of all. The only evidence that Megan was shaking is that Megan was shaking in the ambulance. That is what was introduced, Your Honor. So why don't you get your facts straight before you come at me on the record? The court said, I thought I heard that somewhere. Never mind. Tory's lawyer said 5 minutes later, if hers is a spontaneous statement under an excited utterance, after she was under and while she was under anesthesia, that's when she made that text. That can come in. But my client's statement 5 minutes later after the shooting on the scene, when they get stopped 0.3 miles away, same concept. Wow. Wow, this judge is a bitch. It may or may not be, the judge said, a stupid bitch. Sorry for my language, but it's just a stupid idiot. Because this argument is clear as day. This is a paid off judge, in my opinion. All right, I see what y'all are saying. It only took one ruling for me to see what y'all are saying. I get it. I see. I see. This is really unfair. This is fucked up. I'm sorry it is. Wow. You know, as I'm looking at this, the more I realize that I think Rock Nation's number has been pulled. You know, when I first started on this road, on this path about 5 years ago, I used to think like, I had a totally different understanding like the media and like what they do. And now I realize that the media is just like shilling for PR agents that like, they have their contact info or whatever to get exclusives. Like that's what it really is. For the most part. I mean, I do think there is real journalism out here, and thank God there is some still. I'm not a journalist, so before y'all call me a journalist, no, I'm not. I'm a girl on the internet talking my shit. I'm not a journalist, okay? I do have the freedom of the press, which we all have, but I'm not a journalist, no. I am media, but that's not the same thing as journalist, right? Like, I mean, what they doing on Jerry Springer, that's not journalism, right? Just because it's on the media doesn't mean it's journalism. So, that's like, welcome. This judge pissed me off just now with this ruling because I'm starting to. Okay, so this is why I started this. So it all kind of started with the Chloe Malos of it all, right? Like there were these New York Times and this thing, that thing, and they all wanted to interview us, but then they would just kind of like use our work, pretend it was their work, and then like really not say the most important points. Or they would do an interview just to gather intel and then never air the interview or whatever. So I actually now believe that the Chloe Malos was in tangent with, this is a belief. I don't know. It could be a schizophrenic delusion. So it's not being presented as a fact. So therefore it cannot be defamatory. But it is my belief in my schizophrenic delusion and my psychic vision that Chloe Malos was kind of setting me up with that CNN interview to like basically have to run into the like Lou Taylor hired my law firm, asked for her to do an interview, like all that. Like I'm schizophrenic, who knows, maybe. But I remember trying so hard to get the Britney Spears story into the media. I would take interviews with anybody. I never charged a penny. I did thousands of hours of work and just handed all of it over to any and every news reporter that wanted to cover it. And it just didn't ever go anywhere at all. And the documentaries that they did put out were just completely missed the main points. So I started to become a little bit suspicious about it. And then as I went on, there's been more and more stuff can be said about certain people, more and more stuff. It's almost like when we were talking about Mr. Beast on YouTube at first, everybody's videos were getting strikes, yellow dollar signs, age restricted. Epstein, Maxwell, these are two. And it used to be Jay-Z. It used to be. People were scared to talk about Jay-Z Rock Nation. But it almost seems like little by little, you've seen a little bit more get put in the media here and there. And now you're seeing like elected officials looking into the case and trying to get stuff unsealed. And it's like, is it the case that maybe Rock Nation's number just got pulled and they got kind of greenlit? It's like you could talk about them now. I don't know. I don't know. Let's move forward. They're at the sidebar. The judge is being a stupid idiot. First of all, there's no evidence anybody is shaken. So the judge is reading fake evidence into the court. Don't even know what the hell's going on. Probably playing, what were we doing in 2020? Pokemon Go under the table or something. That was earlier than 2020, I know. First of all, there's no evidence Kelsey was shaking, Your Honor. That is not what the record is. There's no evidence she was shaking. The only evidence is that Megan was shaking in the ambulance. Oh, okay. I thought I heard that. Never mind. Anyway, then Tory Lanez lawyer is like, okay, so but if it's 5 minutes later, and Kelsey's text gets to be talked about in opening statements, but Tory Lanez's statement don't get to be talked about in the opening statements, that's not fair. What do you mean? It's the same concept as their argument. The court said it may or may not be. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it at this point. So objection will be sustained. Don't mention it at the opening. Thank you. Oh my God. Okay, we're on record after lunch. The trial, no jurors present. Any intervening inconsistent statements, maybe it'll come in, but absent that foundation, it will not come in. Your Honor, can I be heard now? Sure. I think it comes in on multiple levels. I agree with Tory Lanez's lawyer arguments on these. I agree with the 791 argument. However, I think for 3 different issues. I think it comes in, number 1, the third party culpability, state of mind exception. And I also think it's very important to establish a few things. Number 1, establish my client's plan. I was just trying to take care of my shorty and take her to the hospital. So this would be a statement bearing upon his mental state at the time. That is an exception to hearsay. So he's saying that's number 1. Number 2, there's some conversations between him and Kelsey when they're both stopped at the time they exit the vehicle, which I think falls under the excited utterance. Not only does it fall under the excited utterance, but I believe just like the text message that the people were able to introduce, so that the state introduced, I believe they're trying to say it comes under excited utterance. And I think that this is the same thing. This is another exception to the hearsay rule. But also the hearsay rule, who cares about hearsay if there's evidence of it on a body cam? Hearsay isn't something that you should be able to do an objection to if they're, okay, like for example, let's say that wasn't on body camera. Let's say the lawyer was just like, well, my client told me that's what he said. Maybe in that universe I could understand. But there is a video of Tory Lanez on body cam saying the statement about the shorty. So it's not like hearsay that can't be tested. So the the defense attorney should just say, fine. I won't say he said it, but we got to play the clip just like they played clips. That's what I would do. This one wasn't live streamed because if it was, the public would have seen the corruption. Well, his appeal is going to be live streamed. The oral arguments are going to be live streamed. And that's in about a little over a week. The judge said there are 2 issues at the same time, Your Honor. After the shooting, from the time they drove down Nichols Canyon to Sunset to the time my client stopped, you could see that my client is distraught. You could see that my client's condition was when he was talking to the police. He at that point talks to, not only is he talking to the officer, there's communication between him and Kelsey. And I think it comes in under an excited utterance. I do too. I actually completely agree with this. It comes in under third party culpability, so another hearsay exception, which would show my client's state of mind, another hearsay exception. And I do believe, as I stated to the court, that my client is going to have to take the stand in this case. So I do believe that this evidence comes in. It's highly prejudicial for us not to be allowed to establish third-party culpability. Yes, this is the crux of the case so far, y'all. Okay, I'm only on day 3. I'm not an expert on the case. But so far, this is what it really this is what it all comes down to, okay? Highly prejudicial for us, meaning it's not a fair trial, for us to not be able to establish third party, meaning Kelsey, somebody else with a gunshot. Somebody else pulled the trigger because it wasn't my client, because it couldn't have been him because it was somebody else. That is a full-on defense strategy. Third party culpability. He's like, it's not fair for us to not be able to establish third party culpability issue by saying what my client's state of mind was at the time. That was his intent at the time, and how we have a motive why she would be the one shooting. I completely agree. He said, we have gunshot residue. We have an independent witness, Sean Kelly, who puts the gun in her hand. There's more than enough evidence in the third party culpability. I completely agree. This is the strongest point of the case for me. Third party, it wasn't him because it was Kelsey. Now, was it actually Kelsey? I don't know. I wasn't there. But I believe that to have a fair trial, all of the possible people who could have pulled the trigger have to be eliminated. The lawyer says, so me getting up there and making statements that I believe, number 1, is being offered, if it is hearsay, it's hearsay because it's a non-hearsay purpose. I think for both reasons it comes in, Your Honor. The court said, okay, so you're looking at evidence code section 1250 or 1240. So to 1240, there has to be a certain foundational fact established. Mainly, whoever the declarant was, that would be Tory Lanez in this case, was acting under the stress caused by the perception of the incident, which I don't know that that's the case or not. Okay, put a 1 in the chat if you think Tory Lanez was stressed when he made the statement. Hold on, let me put a 1. Put a 2 in the chat if you just don't know. If you just don't know. I put a 1. And put a 3 in the chat if you don't think he was. Okay, I bet we're about to see more 1s than anything because it's just common freaking sense. This is stupid. I'm aggravated. With regard to 1240, there has to be certain foundational facts established. Well, the foundational fact is it's on body cam. Mainly that whoever the declarant was acting under stress caused by the perception of the incident. Y'all think he was stressed on body camera, sitting there on the curb, sitting there 4:38 a.m. talking to Kelsey? Stressed? Put a 1 in the chat if you think he was stressed. So if he was stressed, then it can come in. Which I don't know that that's the case or not. The judge said, I don't know if he was stressed. Just, I don't know. I don't know. But it would require some type of foundational showing. Your Honor, this is opening statement. I believe that there's going to be some foundation shown at trial. That's how you lay foundation when you have somebody you could examine on the stand. He's like, just like the people, just like the state, the prosecutors just got up there and made statements about text messages from Kelsey to Justin. That is hearsay. The only way that came in is if there was an exception to hearsay and they have a reasonable belief that she was under stress. 5 minutes later, I have the same belief that my client was under the same stress of the same event, but just merely 5 or 6 minutes later. When he's exiting the vehicle and he's put against the curb, he is in custody. He is in custody. Hello. And the police are doing an investigation at that time. The police don't even know who the shooter is at that point, Your Honor. They tell one of the officers walks over to the other officer and asks whether he should put Megan in custody. Is she in custody? The officer says, yeah, she's in custody. They handcuff her to the gurney. The court said, okay, let me ask the state. With regard to 1240, I have to hear the foundational part of it. As to the 1250 argument, what is your response? The DA said, well, first of all, Your Honor, one of the issues is the statement that the defense is trying to admit is testimonial statement under the Crawford standard. So he can't put it in under any hearsay exception. It's made in direct response to police questioning after he's arrested. No, it isn't. He was on the curb and he did not know. This is false. Okay, wait. One of them's not telling the truth. Because Tory Lanez's lawyer said that this statement was like a eavesdropped statement. Like a police was standing there, Big Brother police was standing there with his little body camera on, and Tory and Kelsey were up on the curb and they were talking and they got eavesdropped on by the body cam. That is completely different, legally and factually, in every single possible way, from a direct response to a question that you know you're answering. So I'm not getting good vibes off of the straightforwardness or the honesty of this prosecutor or this judge. They're saying if the defendant wants to testify, he can say whatever he wants. But that's not true. Anything you say can and will be held against you, right? Anything you say can and will be held against you. So they can absolutely hold against him the statements that he made on the body cam. They can show it in court. The prosecutors can show it and say, look at him here scheming. Look at him scheming and trying to lie. This shows that he's willing to lie, ladies and gentlemen. They could do that even if he doesn't testify. So what the lawyer is saying is, Your Honor, I'm going to play the body cam. I'm just saying what's on the body cam. But the prosecutors are like, no, you're not allowed to do that. No. The judge retired after this case and another judge took over for the restraining order. And that judge retired after giving the restraining order. That's true. So if the defendant wants to testify, he can say whatever he wants. But this statement as it stands violates the rulings of Crawford and its progeny. It's classical testimonial Oh, it's classic testimonial hearsay, which I'm sure the court is aware is prohibited by Crawford and its subsequent cases interpreting that. The judge said, well, I don't know if that's very clear. The Crawford cases, it's a thin line sometimes between what is testimony and what's not. There is typical situations where the police officers say what happened, they get an answer. Most of the cases seem to suggest that's not testimonial because it doesn't have the formality required of the Crawford standard and some of the other cases. So I don't know if that is the answer to that. The DA said, or the prosecutor says, so under 1250, the state of mind exception. Okay, so this is another exception. If they can prove any of these exceptions, then it would come in. Your Honor, the evidence of a statement of the declarant's then existing state of mind is inadmissible. So the threshold, what the defendant is stating in the body worn is this. The officer asks the defendant, so where were you when the shooting happened? Oh, he is talking to the... Okay, so then it looks like maybe Tory's lawyer was being misleading, if this is true, because this is directly responding to an officer. But here's the thing. I think if the government can use the evidence against you in court, like body camera footage, then you should be able to use that same evidence in your defense. So if they can use body camera footage, he should be able to reference body camera footage, I think. She's sensing all the weird stuff in this case is weird. I'm telling y'all, when I told y'all that we have the same answers, I was not lying. It was not a joke. I meant it literally. The top of my head starts to tingle and I get a feeling and I'm like, something's off here. And sometimes I curse when it's a really strong feeling and I don't mean to because I think it sounds bad and trashy, but it's like, sometimes it's just like, this is a stupid bitch. Like sometimes it just is. So it's like, whoa, you know, it's like tingles. It's tingles. The officer asked the defendant, so where were you when the shooting happened? The defendant responded, I don't remember. Then 26 seconds later, the defendant states to Kelsey, it's okay, bro. You okay, bro? We gonna figure it out, bro. Kelsey, you okay, bro? Nobody knows what happened. You okay? It's okay. oh, oh, so I don't. And then he stops. Mr. Magdesian, this is Tory Lanez lawyer, said, hold up, if you're gonna read it all the way. Court said, let him finish. He said he's not finishing. He's stopping. The court said, let him finish. Okay. And then 21 seconds after that, the defendant states, I was trying to help my friend to safety. We was just trying to help my friend to safety. I failed to see how any of these statements fall under the umbrella of section 1252. Doesn't seem to have anything to do with his state of mind. It absolutely has to do with his state of mind. This is so disingenuous. The court's like, okay, Tory's lawyer, let's hear it. Your Honor, if counsel's going to read from the statements, I have this transcribed and I think it should be read correctly, not halfway. He says, Kelsey, you're okay, bro. We're going to figure it out. She says, I'm hyperventilating. He says, you don't need to. Nobody knows what happened. It's okay. Whoa, that was freaking misleading. Holy scheisse. Oh my God. Okay, look, okay. Let's do a compare and contrast. This is how it was read by the state, by the people that are, saying, the prosecutors. Kelsey, it's okay, bro. You okay, bro? We going to figure it out, bro. Kelsey, you okay, bro? Nobody knows what happened. You okay? It's okay, bro. All right, you see right between Kelsey, it's okay, you okay, bro? And then we gonna figure it out. And then Kelsey, you okay? And nobody knows. Okay, so there's nothing in here right here about Kelsey saying I'm hyperventilating. Tory Lanez lawyer said, I'm gonna stop right there. Let's read the full transcript. Kelsey, you okay? You okay, bro? We gonna figure it out. But then here's something got left out. I'm hyperventilating. He says, you don't need to. Nobody knows what happened. It's okay. Then the court is like, oh, did they pull a Brenda Penny? This happened in Brittany's case a lot. All of a sudden, these court stenographers, they can type faster than the speed of sound, y'all. But all of a sudden, whenever you get a corrupt judge on the bench, all of a sudden, they the slowest court reporters you ever heard. 2, 3, 4 times during Brittany, the first time she ever got to speak, She said she was being, the only thing she could think of similar to it in the state of California is sex trafficking. And the judge had the nerve to interrupt her during that speech several times and say, could you slow down just a little bit? Could you ask her to come and actually get eyes on her in the court next time? They released the jail call, but not the 911 call that doesn't go. Oh, it hasn't been released? So the judge says, hold on, you're reading too fast. We're going to bring them through. Okay, brief pause. Why don't we my ruling is going to stand for now, the judge said. That's not a ruling on the ultimate admissibility of the evidence because there's certain foundations that you may be able to make, but I'm going to prohibit you from referencing them in the opening. This is fucked up. This is messed up. And y'all, I just want to let y'all know it is highly unusual and actually considered to be professionally discourteous to interrupt someone's opening or closing to the extent where normally they don't do it. Like at Diddy's trial in the closings, remember whenever the judge had to admonish Mark Agnifilo twice and do a corrective ruling because he blurted stuff out. Even though the judge did say that should not ever have gotten in, the prosecutors were not interrupting his opening or his closing. Shade Room hasn't posted any of the new evidence. Which new evidence? Have I posted it? I don't know. The call for 911 is sealed. That's stupid. Why? Somebody needs to FOIA request it. And see what they say now. I'm going to prohibit you from referencing that in the open. He said, that's fine. I just need to make the record very clear. For the record, I do believe it falls under the state of mind exception. It shows my client's intent. I was taking my girl, my shorty, to the hospital. He's talking about his future intent, which is a state of mind exception. Furthermore, when Kelsey is saying I'm hyperventilating and my client says nobody knows what happened, you don't have to feel like that. This is clearly third-party culpability. Agreed. I agree with him on all 3 points. This is a statement that falls under not only the hearsay exception, but it falls under third-party culpability, which is a defense theory. This is a strong argument for appeal even. The defense theory in this case is that the shooter is Kelsey. The defense theory in this case is that the shooter is Kelsey. It's the totality of the evidence for independent witnesses, gunshot residue, to motive, to why Miss Megan Pete was lying and has been lying about the relationship. Coupled with what's being said at the curb moments after the shooting, it falls under the excited utterance, just like that text did, Your Honor. And if it's not hearsay exception, then it comes in under third-party culpability where the defense has their theory is that the shooter is Kelsey. And that comes in under third-party culpability. That is a defense strategy, Your Honor. That is our theory of defense. You are taking away my client's right to a fair trial by not allowing us to say that we think the shooter is Kelsey and here's all the evidence that it's her. It also shows my client's state of mind. He's trying to calm the shooter down. The court said, okay, I understand your position, but no. As I said, we may have to schedule a 402 hearing to determine whether or not you can meet the foundation for those 2 sections, but I'm prohibiting it at this point. So just keep going with your little shitty ass little presentation that I'm definitely going to get in the way of for the rest of the trial. I mean, I don't know. I'm ad-libbing. I don't know if they really, if you thought this or not. Just proceed with where you were going to proceed with your opening statement. And do you have your first witness ready? Yes, Your Honor. Could I ask who that is? Yes, it's Officer Diaz. That is the first witness, Officer Diaz. Back on the record, the trial and matter. Okay, if you would like to continue to request your opening statement, yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again. Before we took a break for lunch, I was talking with you about some of Miss Megan Pete, the Stallion's statements, and I think it's very important when she takes the stand tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, for you to listen to her testimony. Keep in mind how many times she was interviewed. The first day, a couple times at the curb, ambulance, hospital, 4 days later. Later on, a year later, she was interviewed by this detective and this prosecutor. And in between this, she got on Gayle King, as I talked to you guys about, and told them that she never had an sexual relationship with my client. She's going to admit to all of this, I'm assuming. Okay, so she got on TV and said she never had a sexual relationship with Tory Lanez, but then come to find out she did. And only after the prosecution a couple of months ago, 2.5 years, where she's denied to the media, she's denied to the public about having an sexual relationship with Tory Lanez. 2.5 years later, the prosecution, after the Gayle King interview, asks her yet again, are you sure you had not had a sexual relationship with Daystar Peterson? And only then does she finally admit it. And you're going to have to decide why she's not disclosing the sexual relationship. You're going to have to decide why she did not know what the argument was and who it was between and who was doing the argument, because she was the one home wrecking. You're going to have to decide these factors of credibility. Now, there was some evidence brought up by the people, that's the state, about a 911 call, ladies and gentlemen, and a text message to Meg and Pete by Tory Lanez. Yes, my client did all of those things. But the state, the prosecutors want you to believe that my client apologized because he was the shooter. There's no mention of shooting. He was drunk. Yeah. When he was apologizing to them, he wasn't drunk like they were. They had been drinking long before he got there. You heard, you're going to hear evidence Kelsey had passed out because she drank so much before my client even got there. But what my client was apologizing for was cheating on her. Having an sexual relationship. And this is a good lesson, y'all. Good lesson. Anybody ever comes up to you and says, I'm sorry? Say for what? Because sometimes people say they're sorry for something you don't think they're sorry for. And that would have been good praxis here. If Tory had said, I'm sorry for cheating. I'm sorry for cheating on you. Because even though at the time it was harder to probably put that in writing and say it and admit it and like man up to it, I bet you it would be a lot better to not have, didn't you apologize? And that got to be very clear. And I'm not saying that he didn't, get a little railroaded. It looks like it to me. But these are like, words to live by. Like there's ways that you can protect yourself, because you can just rest assured that your rights are not going to be respected out here. You can rest assured people are going to lie about you. You can rest assured the more successful, the more famous you are, the more money you have, the more attractive you are, the more capable and qualified you are, the more people are going to lie about you. So don't put no ambiguous shit in a text message. I am sorry for cheating on you. That was messed up. I am sorry for saying last night in the car what I said. When somebody apologizes to you, say for what? I used to have a friend whose dad was like one of these hard-nosed, like, mean, gruff. And whenever his, kid would say, my friend would say, I'm sorry. Like, oh, I'm sorry, Dad. The dad would say, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You are sorry. It's like, oh, that's dirty. Cold. She was laughing, pretending to cry in the documentary. Oh my Lord. I didn't see the documentary. I need to watch it. Okay. But what my client was apologizing for was cheating, having an sexual relationship with both of them and promising not to disclose that and disclosing it. So he snitched. He was apologizing for snitching about the home wrecking. In any of the recordings, he takes the call. It says this is a recording. Your call is being recorded, and he apologizes. If he didn't know what he was doing, why wouldn't he just say, hey, I'm sorry for shooting at you. I should never have done that. Why didn't he say that? What his apology is, what the people want you to believe an apology is for shooting. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear evidence in this case. And you will have to be the judge. And you will have to judge, is he apologizing about the shooting? Was he really the shooter? Or was he apologizing because he disclosed facts to two friends that he probably shouldn't have, which led to a shooting? That's how upset she was to tell them. Leave me out of the car. Let me out of the car on Sunset. She's going to say she was just tired of hearing them argue. Do you really believe she was just tired of hearing an argument? Or do you believe that she just wanted to leave because her and Kelsey got into it? Her former best friend, her assistant. She's going to say she wanted to leave because she was tired of hearing them fight. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to decide the credibility of all the witnesses. But I would urge you guys to look at Miss Megan's testimony from the very first day to the second interview, to the fourth interview, and ask yourself who is with her and ask yourself who is with her and why her testimony changes. This is the foundation of I'm getting the scalp tingle. Okay. Desiree, I know y'all call her Deseret. Who is with her? Desiree. Okay. That's what I think is the answer here. And why her testimony changes. I think because Rock Nation is pressuring her. That's what I think is supposed to be being implied here. I don't know. I'm only on day 3 of researching. Okay. They don't know what he was apologizing for. He never specified. So how is that not hearsay? I mean, seriously, I totally think that was the wrong call by the judge for many, many reasons. I don't even think it was close. I agree. I agree with y'all on that one. That was the wrong call. I totally agree. By the judge, wrong call. Her testimony goes from I didn't tell the truth because I didn't want to get shot to I didn't tell the truth because, he told me not to tell the truth. He offered me some money. There's another reason you're going to hear from Meg. Oh, also I didn't tell the truth because he was on probation. And he wasn't on probation. Some of y'all had said he would. That wasn't even true. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence will show my client has never been on probation. Oh. Oh my God. My client has never been convicted of any crime to be on probation. So how could my client tell Megan Pete that I was convicted of a crime, I'm on probation? Please don't say nothing. I'm going to get in trouble. And why didn't she say that the second time? It was only after people got involved in this case. The management company, Rock Nation. Does the story change? And you are going to have to decide that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let's talk about the gunshot residue and the DNA. You're going to hear from an expert, Scott Taylor, who will tell you what gunshot residue is. And counsel did a pretty good job explaining to you what it is. It's gunshot residue. That's what it is. You shoot a gun, there's residue. It goes on your hand. But you have to be nearby, not 18 yards away. If it's 18 yards away, ask yourself why Megan didn't have gunshot residue on her. 18 yards is like 60 feet almost. If I shoot a gun in the air, you're not going to have GSR. Don't let counsel mislead you with the facts of this case. Gunshot residue is you got to be standing next to them, touching it, grabbing it from somebody. And yeah, you might have GSR, but you're not going to get it standing far away. And ask yourself, if Miss Megan Pete testifies, ask yourself, does she tell you what Kelsey was? Where she was standing? It's very important. You heard the prosecutor tell you today that my client said she was walking to the back of the car. You heard the prosecutor tell you that Tory Lanez said Megan was walking to the back of the car, but she was walking away from the car toward the back of the car. And my client got out from the back and shot her, and she saw that? He's going to tell you that. Megan Pete is going to tell you my client shot over the window. This gentleman who is 5'3", 5'4", shot. Oh, he's short. That's tall. That's how tall I am, and I'm short. 5'3", I'm not little. Megan Pete is going to tell you my client shot over the window. This gentleman who's 5'3", 5'4", shot over the window of a Cadillac Escalade. And Megan Thee Stallion, about 6 foot tall herself. That's an interesting couple. If she's in the back of the car, which window did he shoot over? Just stuff like this. Think about this stuff. And where was Kelsey for her to have gunshot residue? Ask yourself, why does Kelsey have gunshot residue if she wasn't the shooter? I'm going to tell you why my client has it, because you're going to hear from Sean Kelly, who's going to tell you that at some point when the female had the gun and was shooting, she saw my client run over. Sean Kelly saw Tory Lanez run over and had his hands possibly trying to take the gun from her. It might explain why my client, when he touches her and stops her, that he might have had gunshot residue. But think about this, ladies and gentlemen. This prosecutor stood right in front of you and said that's his gun. That was right next to him. It's been his gun. Why isn't there any DNA of my client on his own gun? And right here would have been a good spot to say, or fingerprints. But this lawyer apparently didn't know that there was no fingerprints yet. And that is what I think is the most likely case to turn this trial back over. And it could also actually just be he's free. No retrial, just like the rust, because Brady material, the fingerprints. This is where the fingerprints would go if the lawyer knew about them, I think. The prosecutor had the evidence, but did Tory's lawyers? They say no. Until like once the trial had already started. They didn't get it until after these opening statements. That is egregious. I think that was really one of the big things that's got me on this case like a dog with a bone, because I'm like, something's up. Like, I can't get over it. There's a few things I just can't get over. It don't make no sense. And it's like enough things where it's not just one little thing. There's like three. The gunshot residue on her hands and her hand and her DNA not being run on that gun. Them not being allowed to introduce this alternative third party culpability theory even as early as during the opening statements when there is body camera footage that shows that was said. Very weird. Why isn't there any DNA of my client on his own supposed gun? Also, this is another thing people have been hooting and hollering about in the last week, is that the gun, apparently, they've been saying we don't know who it's for, but apparently they just neglected to run the serial number to see who it was for. I mean, that's what Tory Lanez and them are saying. The opening statement goes on, what the state neglected to tell you when he said he can't be eliminated. Yeah, DNA is going to say it's inconclusive. There's no conclusive evidence that my client owns that gun or even that he touched it. There's no conclusive evidence that my client's DNA was even on that gun. Furthermore, they did DNA on the magazines, the magazine of the gun. If it's your gun, it's your magazine, right? You put it in the gun at the time, right? Do you know whose DNA is not on the magazine? Ladies and gentlemen, my client, Tory Lanez. The gentleman who supposedly has the gun, who owns it and shot it, but his DNA is not on the magazine. This detective Stogner, ladies and gentlemen, this is very interesting. Who's the detective who's trying to get to the bottom of this case? He has witness telling him the shooter is a female, and females were fighting. The female would have a motive. He said 2 females were fist fighting. 2 red bones beefing in the backseat. Is that how it goes? No? Is there? I mentioned that because that song has been mentioned in a lawsuit now of Megan Thee Stallion getting sued. Is there gunshot residue on the female? Yes. Comes back positive on the female. What would the next step be in your investigation? How about DNA of that female, right? On that gun? Detective Stogner didn't think that was important for him to do. Fingerprints on the gun. Fingerprints on the magazine. Again, they did have fingerprints and Tory Lanez's ain't on there. But I want to know, what's her name's on there? If Kelsey's fingerprints are on this gun and Tory Lanez's are not, I believe it will be a mistrial, and I do not believe that it will go back to trial. I think he will be free to walk around, and he might even get a payment from the city or the state or whatever. If her fingerprints are on this gun and his are not, I think Tory free. Truly. Unless you get another judge that's corrupt or stupid, a stupid bitch judge. I mean, it can happen. It does happen. Detective Stogner, yeah, this is where I am with it. I had to put it in a box. The gunshot residue, this is so crazy. This is where I just told y'all, and it seems like his lawyer also is hung up on it. I'm hung up on it. The female would have a motive, ladies and gentlemen. It's very interesting. Who's the detective who's trying to get to the bottom of this case, allegedly? He has a witness telling him that the shooter is a female, and the females were fighting. The female would have a motive. He said 2 females were fist fighting. Is there gunshot residue on the female? Yes, positive. So what would be the next step you would do, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? How about DNA of that female, right, on that gun? No. Detective Stogner didn't think that was important for him to do fingerprints on the gun, fingerprints on the magazine for her, or DNA on the magazine for her. So we know my client's DNA is not on the gun or magazine. Well, not quite. I mean, it's inconclusive for the gun, but not on the magazine. But we'll never know if Kelsey's was, ladies and gentlemen, because the detective in this case refused to run for those things. He had a suspect. He wanted to put the gun in his hands because they found the gun near where he was seated. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. The evidence is going to show after. Before the shooting, we know where everybody is seated, right? But after the shooting, you're going to hear some evidence that there was some fighting. Megan wasn't trying to go into the car. She didn't know if she should go into the car. That's whenever Jaquan Smith, he was convincing her, taking her to the car. They grab everybody and put them in the car because they think the police are coming, and they drive off. So my client now goes and sits in a different spot. But now the gun is there because Kelsey had already shot the gun. And now when they're all trying to get Kelsey or Megan into the car, it was there. My client didn't know it was there. He happens to sit in the seat that the gun was there. So now the people's theory is it was his gun. So ask yourself why my client's DNA was not there. And again, why weren't his fingerprints there? This would be where it would go. And he did not have the evidence of fingerprints yet. He thought no fingerprints were ran. This is exculpatory Brady material, open shut case. If I'm the judge, I'm doing a mistrial. Unless they did have the fingerprints and he just decided not to mention it and he's lying now, which could be possible. Ask yourself why my client's DNA was not there. It can't be excluded. Keep in mind who the burden of proof is on. They have the burden of proving this case. It can't be excluded, so he's guilty. No. Their expert's going to say there's no conclusive evidence that it is my client on the gun. There is zero evidence on the magazine, and that is the evidence in this case. Now, Detective Stogner, who is the investigating officer, as I told you, found some of the casings. One of the casings was found the day after. They didn't find it. You're going to see the blood trail. Keep in mind where they claim she was walking on the side of the car to the back of the car, went into the driveway, right? Keep in mind where the blood drops are on this case and ask yourself, how did the blood drops get to the spots that they are if she was walking from behind the car? Okay, ask yourself these questions. This is going to be, Detective Stogner is going to explain to you this information because he's the investigating officer and you guys are going to see those placards. They put where the casings or the blood drops, and you're going to see if it really makes sense if Megan, how the shooting took place, how she saw my client point the pew pew. Now, Megan's going to tell you she saw my client pull the pew pew out, but she doesn't know where he pulled it from. And mind you, she was just with him at this party and he's in swimming trunks. So where did he pull the gun from? We don't know. Okay. But when he's in the back, when he got there, he was sitting in the back. When the detective is asked about the motive and the reasons of the shooting, did he look into it to try to further the investigation? He says the motives and reason for the shooting are not important to him, and that's why he didn't think to do any further investigation of DNA and prints. But these are some important facts. Yeah. You're going to have to judge the credibility on this investigation if it was truly done the right way. And I'm confident that once you hear Megan testify and you hear her story and why she lied, that she really lied because she thought she was going to get killed. And then when she was in the ambulance, she's in cuffs sitting on the curb. That's why she lied, and what they were arguing about, if she really didn't know. Why? Ask yourself why she has to get out of the car and why she's been lying about my client's sexual relationship with her for all these years. I'm confident once you hear all of the evidence, you're going to find my client not guilty of all counts. Thank you very much. Okay, let's call our first witness. At this time, we're calling Officer Diaz. Okay, well, I think I'm going to call it a day on as far as reading these transcripts, but I do want to go and see if anything happened in the Milagro case. So let me go see if I can find some updates on that. Because she did have a hearing this morning, and I was checking the docket earlier, but nothing had come out yet at the time of me starting the live stream. But I want to follow that case because I'm very interested in it. And it relates to this because, like Tory Lanez has also been made to pay some of Meg Thee Stallion's legal bills in this defamation case. My next Tory Lanez video, I will read the first witness, and we'll keep going that way. I've already been on here for almost 3 hours. I want to check on this Milagro case. Okay. There was an exhibit list filed this morning and an evidence list we could take a look at. Oh, and this is all right around the time of the Tory Lanez trial. Like all these text messages and so I have the evidence and witness list or the evidence list from the hearing this morning that has hit the docket. So I'm just pulling it up. I need to buy it on Pacer. My Pacer bill was $1,800 this time, y'all. So I'm trying to not like have to buy things many times over and over. So that means a little bit waiting time for me to pull it up here. Sorry, I'm almost done. Okay. Here it is. Publicly filed document. This was from this morning, and this was from this morning's evidentiary hearing in the Megan Thee Stallion versus Milagro Cooper. They had put in a sworn statement from Mateus Levachoff, extraction from Milagro's phone, 12/22/22. This is all right around the time of, I think, like his hearing and stuff. Extraction on the defendant's phone, 12/22. Then I don't know what this is, 10/30/30. What the hell is that? We're not in the year 30/30 yet, y'all. Her phone again in November 24. This is around the time of the Cassie lawsuit. I don't know if that's necessarily relevant. Then screenshot from defendant's phone of deleted folder regarding Sunstar Peterson, metadata on the database from the defendant's phone, forensic analysis of iPhone by Kevin Luang, and a tweet from 2024 and a tweet from 2022. So what happened in the case? Anybody find out? Let me see. Let me just type in Tory or let's see, Milagro. What happened in the case? I'm waiting for a minute order or something. So here's a little bit of a breakdown of that from one of these like online accounts. Transcript of July 25th deposition of Milagro Cooper. So she was deposed on the 21st. For this case, Milagro was. Transcript of deposition of Caesar McDowell, whoever that is. Screenshot of off the record lips are sealed direct message from Sunstar Peterson to Miss Cooper, included in a September 24, 2020 text message exchange between Milagro and Amiel Kittrell. Screenshot of send me your number, Mill. Direct message from Tory Lanez to Milagro, 2020. Then she made a post on X, sue me. It was so people could see the video. Another user posted, what would the lawsuit for that be? A post from Milagro Cooper. And again, it's Quinn Emanuel. This is the Rock Nation law firm. Like they represent Rock Nation a lot. June 8th, 24. It was so people, okay, wait. Document preservation letter, Miss Cooper. October. Okay, so then she got notice that she was going to get sued and to preserve the documents. October 29th, 2024. November 5th, direct message from a Stilettos account to Milagro regarding a legal strategy. November 14th, 2024. That was last year. Screenshot of the preservation letter received by Miss Cooper. So I don't know if she received it. November 14th, screenshot of Sunstar Peterson text deletion. So this is them showing that this was from, I think, that previous hearing, but this was them showing or attempting to show that she was violating the order to not delete stuff. Reporting regarding examination of WhatsApp, analysis of spreadsheet. Okay, so that was from yesterday. Meg's shots fired alluded to Kelsey's chain being snatched. Kelsey denied it and busting back, asking if Meg knows who shot her. Wow, the drama. Thanks so much. For the £4.99. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Deity Truck. Thank you so much, Kill with Kindness, for the $4.99. Oh, my Corey Handler Gambler enters the chat. Exactly. Thank you, Biker Batty, for the 313. Tori was apologizing for telling Kelsey about them. Yeah, and I could see why he would be doing that. Caesar works with Unite the People and or founded the organization. I can't remember. Milagro only read from documents. She deleted it in 2020, but she wasn't served until 2024. Okay. Do you think they will arrest anyone else if he's released? Who knows? Probably not. But I think this is being used a little bit to get it into the public consciousness that, like, you know, something is amiss and something might be going on. Because if you just drop this on people out of nowhere, like, you know, what's really going on, nobody's going to believe it. So there has to be like a trickle out, or else people are just going to say you're crazy, as y'all know. And it is how it works in my experience with other things too. So that is where we're going to leave it on day, I don't know, I'm calling it day 3 kind of jokingly. Day 3 of investigating Tory Lanez. That's how much evidence I have. That's how much information I have. Okay, I've been looking at it for 3 days. So don't take anything I said as a fact. Obviously, judges and jurors and juries and lawyers know way more about this case than I do, especially the stuff that's behind the sealed things and all that. So I guess next next time I'll just go in order, because this helped me to kind of like, okay, this is setting the stage. Next time we'll just jump straight in with the first witness and we'll just do the whole Tory Lanez trial. Why not? Put trial in the chat, put trial in the comments if y'all want to do it that way. If not, I'll just read it myself. Thank you for everybody who gave a super chat. It is getting pretty crazy out here. So if you have it in your heart, soul, or mind to donate to the legal fund, I would really, really appreciate it. I could use all the help I can get. It's getting a little stressful out here. Thanks so much. Thank you, John. Shout out to the cousins. Thank you, John, for the $5 super chat. Thank you. Y'all are saying trial. Just go, just read it all, right? Like, now my mouse done stopped working. I'm blaming Jay-Z or Diddy. Okay, no, it had just died. I'm not gonna blame them then. Maybe I should blame me for that one. Okay, everybody's saying trial. So yeah, we'll just go straight through. Next one I'll do, everybody has trial. We'll just go straight through. It'll probably take a lot less time than the Diddy trial because I could just read it. Today we were on here for 3 hours. We got through both opening statements. I think we can do that actually. Tell the cousins. I'll see y'all in the next one. And yeah, ThatSurpriseWitness.com has the merch too. I'm also working on a very special surprise merch, and it's not clothes. Love you, Mina. Okay, bye.